following is a special Wayne Hills television sports presentation.
After the evisceration of crosstown rivals Wayne Valley last week, Wayne Hills meets High Point in the 2010 state semifinals. Year after year, the Patriots have seen a rarely used player step up in a heroic performance. In 2008, it was Tom DiBianco.
Empty backfield for the Patriots. The toss is to DiBianca as he cuts it back and breaks through, running down the left side of the field. DiBianca has blazing speed and nowhere to be as Tom DiBianca is going to take it all the way for the touchdown.
In 2009, it was Omar Manazra.
Could this be the last game of their season? Quinn, play action, rolls out to the right, looks to pass. He catches it! It's a touchdown! The Patriots win the game! Yeah! It's good! The Patriots win! Everyone storms the field! I am so happy!
This year, will Hills need another unsung hero, or will Brian Dowling take care of business as usual?
You hear him talking about their semifinal game, they got to get by us.
A win tonight would earn the Patriots a shot at the state championship, an opportunity to avenge their brutal loss last year. Will this 2010 team join the ranks of the greats in Wayne Hills' immortality?
1, 2, 3,
go now! Find out now as Wayne Hills takes on High Point in the state semifinals.
Tonight's the first part of the plan. If you looked at it, you believed it, you dreamt it, you envisioned it, it happened.
Hello and welcome to Patriots Stadium for this North 1 Group 3 state semifinal matchup between the Wayne Hills Patriots and the Wildcats of High Point. I'm Anthony Scudillo alongside the two-time V Award winner, Joe Rapp. Now, Joe, it's cold out. You know what it reminds me of? Last year's state semifinal matchup.
Absolutely, Scott. I mean, it was a great game between Wayne Hills and Sparta. I mean, Wayne Hills had a big halftime lead, probably up 30 points, and Sparta came fighting back to send the game into overtime, but that's when you saw the great play by Mike Quinn to Omar Manazra to win the game and send him to the state championship in Giant Stadium.
Yeah, Joe, it seems like somebody every year steps up in a semifinal matchup, whether it's Omar Manazra or Tom DiBianca. Now, Joe, you mentioned the Spartans who have played High Point this year. Let's talk about their schedule a little bit.
Well, you know, they defeated Mount Olive last year, a 4 or 5 seed matchup, 28-20. It was a great game by both. You can expect that from a 4 or 5 seed matchup where both teams are evenly matched. And this year they also beat Pascack Valley 20-14. And you got to remember, 2 years ago in this same game, Anthony, probably to this date, Wayne Hills beat PV on the back of Tom DiBianca's 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, they had a tough schedule, and you could tell they had a good season because they're here right now.
Well, Joe, the one thing that this High Point team has going for them is their scrambling quarterback, Kevin Fasano. What has the defense done to prepare for this?
Well, and, you know, Wayne Hills has a great defense throughout. D-line, linebackers in the secondary. I mean, Fasano's going to have his hands full when he scrambles out of the pocket. For Coach Olson, I think he told his defense to just be aggressive because you have great players behind you throughout the defense.
You know, Joe, you mentioned this Wayne Hills defense, and they have been fantastic this year. Let's take a look at their schedule. Now, Joe, the games that stick out in my mind are the Ramapo game. There was a lot of controversy coming into that. You know, trash talk on both sides. Hills came out and absolutely destroyed them. The Wayne Valley games, played them twice, beat them both. And then the one game that sticks out in my mind the most was the St. Joe's game where they lost to Chris Andrews, the scrambling quarterback. You know, I think they're going to have some problems tonight. I think the defense is going to step up. You said they've practiced for them. But, you know, they have John Robertson came in at Paramus and, you know, tore apart this defense for the first time. Then Andrews the second time. Clearly they have a problem with scrambling quarterbacks. You know, but, you know, can Wayne Hills, you know, it's not even about the scrambling quarterbacks tonight. This size of this High Point team is enormous. We thought the St. Joe's line was big. They double that. What is Hills going to have to do tonight against that huge line?
Well, I think the defensive line is quicker than the High Point offensive line. I mean, it's a big game, Anthony. You got to be up for a semifinal state game like this. I think they're up for the challenge.
Yeah, you know they're going to come out with a lot of enthusiasm and, you know, just play as hard as they can. Now, every team's goal is to stop Brian Dowling. So who's going to step up? Is it going to be Troy? And if it is Troy, how many, you know, what's his workload going to be on the offense?
Well, Troy last year had a lot of carries and a lot of Wildcat opportunities, and last week's game versus Valley. I mean, I think he'll get some touches tonight on the wideout or even running back and Wildcat. So maybe between 20 to 25 touches today.
Well, Joe, the other game on the other side of this bracket is two scrambling quarterbacks going against each other. John Robertson and Paramus is playing Old Tapan, and Devin Fuller, the star junior who's being recruited to schools such as UCLA and Boston College. He's going to be a star one day. What's the outcome of that game going to be?
Well, and I think it's one of the best games in New Jersey, quite frankly. Two great quarterbacks, Villanova bound John Robertson and possibly UCLA Bruin quarterback, Devin Fuller. I mean, they're going to scramble. There's no doubt about it. But I look for Old Tapan to win that game by a close margin. I'm going to say 28-20, with Devin Fuller having over 200 yards rushing.
Yeah, Joe, I'm going to agree. This Old Tapan team has really came in and destroyed a lot of teams. Now, the one thing that sticks out in my mind for Old Tapan, though, they haven't had the toughest schedule, and I think that's why, you know, Fuller's stats, I don't want to say they're tainted, but they're a lot higher than they could be if they had a harder schedule. The one team they played that was, you know, relatively close was Ramapo, and they only won by a little, so they're going to have to step up tonight. Robertson and Paramus are a dangerous team. They have nothing to lose. They're going to come out firing. I love underdogs, and I love Paramus in this situation.
Absolutely, and let me point out one thing. Wayne Hill's got maybe the luckiest roll in the brackets I've ever seen, with Ramapo, Paramus, and Old Tapan being on one side of the bracket. And Wayne Hill's only going to have to face one of those teams once, and probably in the state championship game, so you can't get any luckier than that.
All right, Joe, let's speed this up a little bit. How many pass attempts tonight for Kevin Olson?
10 to 12.
How many touches is Troy Zafino going to have?
20 to 30.
Now, High Point, how many points are they going to put up?
I think 14, Ant.
How many touchdowns for Brian Dowling?
4.
Okay, how many yards for Devin Fuller?
Ooh, I said 200 yards before. I'm sticking with that.
What about John Robertson?
I don't know. It's close. I mean, they're two great quarterbacks. I think 150 to 200.
You know, Joe, I have to agree with you on every single one of those things. You say you're right all the time. I believe you are. But what about the score for this game tonight? What do you think it's going to be?
Oh, I think Wayne Hills, they're going to blow them out, personally. It's going to be a very rough game for the High Point Wildcats. I'm going to say 42 to 14 in Wayne Hills' favor.
Joe, I think it's going to be a little closer than that. This line and this High Point team is big, but I think the speed and athleticism for Wayne Hills is really going to kick in. I say they're going to win 28-3. Well, that's it for now. We'll be back after this.
Well, I'm in the booth here with Nick Appaluccio, ready to call this game today. State semifinals, Nick. Last home game for these Wayne Hills seniors. Last time they'll be on this Patriot field. So they're coming in today against a 4-seed in High Point, a team that's 8-2, one of the better records in this bracket. So coming in, High Point has a very high-powered triple-option offense led by their quarterback Kevin Fasano and Austin Caldwell, 700 rushing yards in the backfield as a fullback. They have 6 guys on this offense that have rushed for over 100 yards this year. They spread the wealth, and they're a high-powered offense. Joe Rapp underestimated them a little bit, but they're going to prove to be tough for Wayne Hills. They're big up front. What does Wayne Hills' defense need to do? I mean, they faced these type of offenses before, but what do they need to do against a bigger front? They haven't seen a team this strong all season.
Well, John, I think the defensive line is going to be perfectly fine. The big thing that's going to be the question is, can the linebackers be disciplined, not cheat one way, and wait to see what they're going to do with that triple option?
Now, offensively for Wayne Hills, we saw Troy Zafino burst on the scene last week and have a great game, throwing for a touchdown and catching one, or running for one, excuse me. He had a great game. Do we see Wayne Hills go to him more tonight, or are they going to ride number 9 all the way to the finals?
Well, it depends. See if Brian Dowling gets stopped. If High Point gets used to him, then they're going to go to Troy Zaffino. Troy can probably, I'm not going to say he could cut better, but he's just a different running style than Brian is.
Now, there's a lot of key players. I mean, Anthony and Joe talked plenty about the guys that are under the radar that step up for these semifinal games. Who is it going to be tonight?
I'm going to go with linebacker number 2, Nick Massey. He's really the front of that linebacker core, and he's going to have to stay on his toes tonight, not cheat one way, and he's going to have to tackle those guys in the backfield if they want to win this game.
Well, Massey has been the leader of that defense the past 2 seasons. We know he lays a lot of licks on those offensive players. He likes to jack people up, and tonight he is going to be out for blood. But my guy is number 3, James Hogan. Probably the second strongest linebacker on the core, if not the strongest. James, to me, is going to be the key to this Wayne Hills defense today. He's the stand-up defensive end. He plays outside linebacker officially, but he lines up on the line of scrimmage. It's going to be up to him to read which way that triple option is going and react to it. He's going to be the guy that's going to blow the play up in the backfield if he's got a chance to do it. And with Peter Davies, the lead defensive end for Wayne Hills, dealing with a turf toe injury tonight, Hogan is going to be that much more important. So for me, that's my key guy. But what is going to happen? The big question, blowout like Joe Rapp thinks or a closer game like Anthony and I think?
No one likes a blowout, John. Everyone likes a close game, and I think these 2 defenses are definitely strong. High Point with one guy under 6 feet on their defense, so I'm going to go with 17-14, Wayne Hills winning it.
I agree with you and Anthony. It's going to be close. Wayne Hills is not going to blow a team out. This High Point team came in fired up for today. They had an hour-and-a-half bus ride to get pumped up. This is going to be a great game in my opinion. I do think Wayne Hills comes out with it. I think Brian Dowling will be too quick, like Anthony said, for this High Point team, but it's going to be close, and it's going to be a real good game coming down to the wire like the last 2 years. So now last week, Wayne Hills had a very tough matchup in the quarterfinals against the Wayne Valley Indians right here at Patriot Stadium. It's expected to be another close matchup for the 3rd time in 2 years, but Wayne Hills blew out the Indians and had their way, winning that game by a score of 48-0. Let's take a look at the highlights from that game.
Line set on 30
We're going to pick things up
2 fullbacks down
here in the first quarter as Troy
Zaffino
Zaffino bounces to the outside and gets inside the pylon for the score. And Wayne Hills goes up 6-0. That was a 4th-and-1 play, and Zaffino came through and gave Wayne Hills the early lead. Later on into the second quarter now, this is Brian Dowling with his first long run of the game. Bounces it outside after going between the tackles and is finally going to be wrestled down by Anthony Varelli inside the Valley 30. Hills was in business. That would lead to this wildcat. Troy Zaffino looks like he's going to run and drops back and throws it up to no other than the quarterback, Kevin Olson, the sophomore, making the catch in the end zone, and Hills goes up by 2 scores. Next drive, Andrew Fournier dropping back to pass. Pass is tipped by Peter Davies, and Roberto Alvarez, the junior defensive tackle, catches the pass from Fournier and takes it into the end zone for a pick 6. 21-0 Wayne Hills. Kevin Olson would show off his arm this time as he's going to air it out over the middle to Mike Drees, the senior wide receiver, making the 47-yard grab, and Hills was in control 28-0. As if 28-0 wasn't bad enough, with just 5 seconds to go in the second quarter, Andrew Fournier fumbles the snap, Wayne Hills recovers, and at the halftime buzzer, Mike Drees drills the field goal, and Hills goes into the locker room up 31-0. To the second half we go in the third quarter. Dowling getting inside the pylon for 6, his first touchdown of the game. And to top it all off, Kevin Olson with his second 47-yard touchdown pass of the night, hitting Brian Dowling, and he'll go into the end zone for the score, and Wayne Hills goes on for the easy 48-0 win. And now I got a chance to catch up with number 9, Brian Dowling for Wayne Hills. Let's hear what he had to say about this semifinal matchup. Welcome to this week's edition of Breaking Tackles with Brian Dowling. I'm John Vittas here with Wayne Hills running back Brian Dowling. So, Brian, guys, coming off your best performance of the season, Wayne Valley 48-0, a team that had played you tough the 2 previous times. What does a win like that do for the program after a lot of question marks going into the playoffs?
It just establishes us, as a program. We knew we were the better team, but there was a lot of talk around town, a lot of talk from their players. we just wanted to establish who the better program was, and that, all the hard work that we do, the time we put in, we don't need to talk about it during the week. We don't need to go to the press. We'll do that after the game. And, we made a statement on Friday night, and it was a good game for us because, scored on all aspects, throwing, running, different guys, Troy, Roberto, Mike Dries, Kevin, all scoring touchdowns. So it was definitely a good game for us.
Wayne Hills has made it to the state championship game every year since 2003. With those expectations set forth for this team again in 2010, what kind of pressure do you guys feel going into a semifinal game knowing that it's expected for you to make the finals?
The pressure's there in the back of our minds, but we try not to focus on it just because of the fact that, our goal from when we start in the weight room is to make it to the state finals, whether you're 5-4 and you're the 8 seed or you're 12 or you're 9-0 and you're the 1 seed. We want to make it to the state finals, and, getting to the semifinals is not our goal. So we have some unfinished business, and, if we can get this one tonight, then we'll start worrying about the finals.
High Point, the team you're playing tonight, runs an option offense, triple option. You've seen that plenty of times in your career. Mm-hmm. You guys have prepared for it before, but no team is as big as this High Point team. They're a strong club, and you guys have shut down this offense before, but this High Point team presents a new challenge. What do you guys have to do on defense to control them?
I think we need to, control the line of scrimmage and limit them to long play drives. They like to, have 2-yard carries, 8-yard carries, 4-yard carries, churn out first downs, and, then they break one out of nowhere, and they don't throw the ball a lot, but the problem with their offense is they run the ball so much you get caught up in it, a little play action, and you can leave somebody open. That's what happened against Pascack Valley last time. So I think controlling the line of scrimmage, capitalizing on offense when we do get the football, and we'll be all right.
Their quarterback, Fasano, and the running back, Austin Caldwell, like you said, against Pascack Valley, both had 2 long plays for over 60 yards. So they're definitely trying to break the big play for their offense.
Yep.
Now, your offense was great last week, 48 points against a defense that had shut you guys down the 2 previous meetings. The Wildcat was great with Troy Zaffino. Is his role in the offense going to continue to increase, and will we see more new wrinkles out of the Wildcat tonight?
I'm sure you'll see some new wrinkles. Troy's just one of the guys that takes the snap out of Wildcat. We have 3 or 4 guys that we have, but we have different. We have Hogan taking some snaps, me taking some snaps, Troy, Kevin, different guys in the backfield. So you'll definitely see some new wrinkles tonight. And Troy's a great player. He's a great back. So getting the ball in his hands, being able to do different things with different guys definitely helped us out. So I think you'll see some new wrinkles.
Now, Kevin Olson was one of the questions coming into the playoffs. He had a great week last week. He only threw 5 passes, but 2 47-yard touchdown passes. Is he going to get more attempts today, or is it going to be another 5-attempt game where you just want him to be efficient?
Kevin has really come along since the beginning of the year. You see that he doesn't make many mistakes. I think maybe he's on 2 or 3 picks the whole season. He makes great decisions. So we're putting more on his back as weeks goes on, and we know towards this game, towards the finals, that we got to be able to throw the football. So Kevin's role is definitely step up a little bit, and we're just gonna do what's being successful. If we're able to run the ball tonight, we're gonna run the ball. If Troy's able to use the Wildcat, we're gonna use it. If Kevin's throwing the ball well, we're gonna throw the ball. We just want to win.
Now, real quick, we can't look ahead, but Oltapan, Paramus, 2 tremendous quarterbacks. What would you see in that game?
That's an offensive battle. Last time they played, I think the final score was 50-38. I think Paramus is an improved team since what I've seen on film recently compared to them. I wouldn't be surprised if John Robertson pulls it off. That kid does not want to lose, and he plays like that. He plays with emotion. And then there's Devin Fuller. He has a story himself on Old Japan. Leading them to their best season. He's their best player, one of the best players in North Jersey. It's going to be a quarterback battle. Who could? For me watching that game, I'm looking at the defenses. Which defense is going to step up and shut the other guy down? I said it when we played Paramus. You can't stop John Robertson. You can't stop Devin Fuller. But you got to limit them to big plays, and you got to conserve time and keep the ball out of their hands. So whoever does that will get the W.
I picked Paramus to beat Ramapo last week, and I really think Oltapan's going to have their hands full with Robertson again this week. But Brian, good luck in this game against High Point. It should be a good one.
Thanks.
And we'll be back with the pregame festivities after this.
First down, Horsell back to pass. Excellent protection all the time in the world. Looking downfield, looking for Van Penen, triple covered, sticks it in there, flags on the play. Van Penen ahead to the 20, looking for the sideline. He's across the 10, near the goal line, dives. Touchdown, Ray Van Penen.
Welcome back to the broadcast booth here at Wayne Hills High School, getting set for the North 1 Group 3 semifinal matchup between your Wayne Hills Patriots and the High Point Wildcats. I am John Vittas, joined alongside Nick Appaluccio, and now welcoming into the booth Alex Green. So Alex, we didn't get your take in the pregame, but going into this game, Wayne Hills appears to have a tough test for the defense. Their defense has held up against every opponent except for St. Joe's this year. Triple option, Wayne Hills has stuffed it in the past, but this High Point team is bigger than anyone else Wayne Hills has faced. How are they going to handle that tonight?
Certainly the triple option is something they faced in the past. Like you said, they handled it pretty well. And like Brian said in the interview, they really need to control the line of scrimmage, being the Wayne Hills defense. And like Nick said, the linebackers need to step up. So if they can do all that, they should do fine tonight.
Well, one of the questions coming into the playoffs for Wayne Hills was their sophomore quarterback, Kevin Olson. Now, Kevin comes into this game with some decent numbers. 54% passing, over 1,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 5 picks. 3 of those picks came against St. Joe's in Montvale, as there you see the players getting ready to emerge from that helmet. Real quick, guys, Kevin was 3 for 5 for 97 yards and 2 scores last week. Is that a fluke, or is he matured into that quarterback Wayne Hills has been looking for that can win in the playoffs?
Well, we're almost at the end of the season, John. After 1 year, you think Kevin will be getting used to it, and that's what I personally think, that Kevin's getting used to this varsity position, and he's only going to get better his junior and senior year.
I think while Kevin has matured, because this is his 10th game, I believe, I mean, he certainly faced a tough test in St. Joe's, and he did not handle the test very well, like you said, with 3 interceptions. But against a very tough Wayne Valley team that always plays Wayne Hills especially tough, he played very well, like you said, with 2 long touchdown passes. But it should be interesting to see how he does tonight on a cold night against a big defense.
Well, you mentioned it's a cold night. Game time temperature dropping down into the mid-30s. It's only going to get colder as the game goes on, as there you see the High Point Wildcats coming into the season at 8-2. It's the coldest game we've had this year. We'll see how that plays a role. But it's that time. Let's throw it up to Mr. Mezzi for the introduction and national anthem of this North 1 Group 3 state semifinal.
North 1 Group 3 football playoffs between the visiting Wildcats of High Point Regional High School and the home team Patriots of Wayne Hills. The officials assigned to this game are members of the New Jersey Football Officials Association. The rules governing this game are the National Federation rules as adopted by the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Association. These rules differ from those used in collegiate and professional football. The officials in tonight's game, the referee, Joe Maroney, the umpire, Robert Palmer, the linesman, Ken Cassell, the line judge, Dave Deinhardt, the back judge, James Slikes, and the clock operator, Pat LaSalle. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Wildcats of High Point Regional High School. And now for the starting lineups for the Wayne Hills Patriots. This is their defensive starting team. At defensive end, number 40, Peter Davies, number 40. At defensive tackle, number 72, Roberto Alvarez, number 72. At defensive tackle, number 64, Joe Lane, number 64. At defensive end, number 17, Matt Greenfield, number 17. At linebacker, number 7, Russ Pekarsky, number 7. At linebacker, number 2, Nick Massey, number 2. At linebacker, number 32, Jimmy Kenny, number 32. At linebacker, number 3, James Hogan, number 3. At cornerback, number 20, Troy Zaffino, number 20. At free safety, number 28, Mike Drees, number 28. And at cornerback, number 9, Brian Dowling, number 9. And let's welcome the rest of the Wayne Hills squad. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you now please rise as we honor America with the playing of our national anthem by the Wayne Hills Patriot Marching Band.
As the intensity is ratcheted up a notch here at Wayne Hills High School, let's hear what Coach Olson had to say to his troops in the locker room.
More physical than they are. They have, I'm telling you right now, I can tell by just body language on the field. They feel right now that they're gonna shock the state of New Jersey. I'm telling you right now, that's what those kids are feeling. You have to go out there and remove any doubt immediately when the game starts. Their plan is to shock the state of New Jersey in high school football. This is your last home game, seniors. The last time you step on this field. For you juniors that are playing, there's no guarantee you're going to be back in the semifinals next year. There's no guarantee you're going to get this far. You're not guaranteed anything. But you're guaranteed a game tonight. You're guaranteed a game tonight. This is really about who's going to put the chin strap on tight, who's going to hit who, Pete, and who's going to back off and who's not going to back off. That is very simple. And the team that does that for 48 minutes wins the game. That's all it's about tonight. It's a very simple, me against you, on every play. This is not a hard one to figure out. This is not a hard one to figure out. If you don't block 3 and 52 and 75 and tackle 24, you can't win. Everybody's got to do their job. Everybody's got to do their assignment and do it better than you've ever done it. You're prepared as well as you can be. Now you go out and get it done.
Well, a very intense speech from Coach Olson, and deservedly so. Guys, all three of us noticed the intensity of High Point. Wayne Valley came in here last week in a game that should have been a highly contested matchup, and they laid down and lost 48-0. That's not going to happen today. High Point sat on the bus for over an hour, looking, like Coach Olson said, to shock North Jersey, because they come in here as a no-name. They haven't been this far into the playoffs in a very long time. And Hills is here every year. Everyone's expecting Wayne Hills to get the easy win tonight. And High Point wants to prove that they are finally on the North Jersey scene as far as elite high school football teams go. Guys, I'm excited.
As am I, John, as am I. I mean, you look at their stands. They live an hour and a half away, and they have just as many, if not more, fans than us. So you could tell that the fans are really looking forward to this game. The players are, and they bring their fan base with them, which is going to help them win.
Well, very true, Nick. I mean, they might have more fans than Wayne Hills does. Wayne Hills fans take this for granted. Every year they're in the state championship game, and High Point's going to do their best to not let that happen this year. The cold weather has certainly kept a lot of students away, but the intensity on the field won't be lost at all by the lack of fans because both of these teams are ready to go, and we know Wayne Hills is after that speech. So here we go. The High Point Wildcats getting set to kick it away. Number 2, the senior Joseph Drossel is the place kicker and kickoff man for the Wildcats. Troy Zaffino and Brian Dowling, the return men for the Wayne Hills Patriots. Drossel's kick is a low squib, going to be fielded up by the up back of the 26. Across the 30, near the 35 is, I believe, Hogan, and Hogan gets all the way out to the 38-yard line. That's where Wayne Hills will start their first drive of the night. That was Massey on the return, and Massey had a nice little spurt there, and Wayne Hills is going to start from their own 39-yard line.
You saw a squib kick there, which I don't think was intentional, and it's going to be interesting to see how the cold weather affects not only the throws tonight, but also the kicks.
Yeah, Alex, definitely. I saw the place kicker put the ball different than I've ever seen it before. It was more down, so maybe it was intentional, maybe it's not. But yeah, my feet are cold just sitting here, so I can't imagine how a football player's feet are going to feel when they're going to be kicking the ball.
Well, Olsen's going to keep it on first down and slip after getting across the 45. A gain of 7 yards for Kevin Olsen on first down, and 2nd and 3 for the Patriots.
Kevin Olsen disappointed with himself after that play. He saw him slam the ground. I mean, he looked like he was going for a first down if he didn't slip and fall on that.
True, he hit the ground very hard in disappointment after he fell, but great play action there.
Yeah, good call from Coach Olsen using Dowling as the decoy on first down. 2nd and 3. There goes Dowling up the gut, first down. Gain of 6 for number 9. And let's take a look at the Wayne Hills starting lineups on offense. There it is. Olsen, the sophomore quarterback. Hogan leading the way for Dowling. He'll get some carries too. Lowe, Dreesen, Zaffino, the receivers. Davies at tight end. Shunky, the Avedisian twins. Ivkov in the middle. And Schultz round out your offensive line. 1st and 10 for Wayne Hills from the High Point 47. 2 big plays to start it off for them. It's going to be a keeper for Olsen. Get a gain across the 45 and wisely goes out of bounds at the 47. A 5-yard gain for Kevin Olsen, maybe 6.
I really like what Wayne Hills is doing so far. We've never seen Kevin Olsen as a scrambling quarterback, and now here he is going in the footsteps of Mike Quinn, who quarterbacked last year. He's at Elon now, and he might be transferring into a scrambling quarterback. Who knows?
High Point expects the ball to go to Dowling because he's the key player on this Hills team, and Coach Olsen's doing a great job throwing them off by letting Olsen scramble.
Dowling in motion on 2nd and 5. They toss it to him. Dowling across the 40, makes a move, and is taken down immediately at the 39. 1 yard short of the first down, a pickup of 4 for Dowling, and a huge 3rd and 1 play for the Wayne Hills offense on the opening drive.
Taken down by number 2, Joe Drossel.
John, what do you think of, in the first 4 plays, we usually see 4 runs from Dowling. What do you think of 1 run from Dowling so far?
Well, I like Kevin Olsen keeping the ball. He's proven he can handle it. And right now, this is a key 3rd and 1. Hogan and Massey are the upbacks, and Olsen fumbles the ball. A loss of 1, maybe 2. And now it's decision time for Coach Olsen. A disastrous play on 3rd and 1, and they're going to have to punt it. Huge mistake from the sophomore.
All the maturity comments kind of go away when you see that happen.
The maturity, the cold ball, all factor there. And it'll be interesting to see what they do here on 4th and 2.
And it looks like Wayne Hills is going to go for it. 4th and a very long 2, maybe even 3.
They got to set the tempo for this game, John. You saw Brian, he wanted to go for it. He was moving his hands. He wanted Coach Olsen to call it.
Momentum will swing with this play. Dowling going in motion. They toss it to him. The lead block from Hogan clearing it out, and Dowling gets the first down. A gain of 6 for Brian Dowling, and they get it down to the High Point 36.
That's where Brian Dowling's most strong. He's a great clutch football player.
And he saw good field vision there. He saw an opening, cut into it, and ended up getting the first down.
High Point had great penetration on the outside, and Hogan cleared the way, getting 3 guys out of Dowling's path, and Brian made him pay.
John, looks like your key player's doing work for him tonight.
So Wildcat for the first time. Zaffino going to take the snap out of the shotgun, hands it to Dowling up the middle. Dowling across the 35 and near the 30. A gain of 5 on first down for Dowling, and the Wayne Hills offense is moving.
You saw the 4th and 2 was such a big play there. If they can score here, it really gives them the momentum. And really takes away from High Point. Had High Point stopped on 4th and 2, the game could be completely different.
We heard Brian Dowling talk in the pregame about new wrinkles out of the Wildcat. They broke it out last week against Wayne Valley, ran 6 or 7 plays out of it, and came away with 2 touchdowns, and Brian said they're going to be even more wrinkles tonight. And here it is again, Zaffino out of the Wildcat. Going to keep it this time, come to the near sideline 30. Troy with room to run at the 25, and he's taken down inside at the 24. A gain of 7 yards for Troy Zaffino on another Wayne Hills first down.
We really never see Eugene Lowe in there that much. He's a captain, though. He's a great player, and we're seeing him a lot in this game so far.
Nick, you said earlier how only one of the players on this defense is under 6 feet tall. So it'll be interesting to see how fast they are and if they can keep up with the intense speed of Wayne Hills.
I formation for Wayne Hills. Run up the middle to Dowling across the 25 up to the 20. Another gain of 5 for Brian Dowling, the senior leader of this Wayne Hills Patriot team, leading them to a 9-1 record this season. But as Nick mentioned, Eugene Lowe out there, as he normally is, at his wide receiver position. Eugene, the blocking specialist, he'll be out there on the majority of the plays on offense. When Dowling's running the ball, Eugene's always out there, but hey, Lowe can catch the ball too. He's proven that this season. I mean, he's caught 10 balls for 186 yards and a score. So Eugene has great hands to complement his blocking skills. I formation on 2nd and 5. Olsen throwing to the right. That's complete across the 10 and inside goes number 1, Andrew Monahan on the reception, and the junior gets down to the High Point 9-yard line.
Andrew did all he could do with that play. When you catch a screen and see the defenders closing on, you got to circle around and get as many yards as you can going forward.
It's a key block there by the wide receiver in the slot, who allowed Monahan to not only get the first down, but about 5 yards extra.
And that's the guy I just talked about, Eugene Lowe, running a route and blocking on top of it, making way for Monahan to set up Olsen with the 1st and goal. I formation again, Dowling up the middle, weaving his way to the 5 and pushing the pile down to the 1. Look at Bryant Dowling showing effort in his senior season here in his last game here at Wayne Hills High School. Dowling picks up 8. And it'll be 2nd and goal from the 1.
Dowling, who did not score last week in the first half, looks to be pushing the pylon here, or pushing the ball here, and I hope he's going to the pylon.
The last thing Brian wants to do tonight is go home with a loss. You're going to see him playing his hardest this game.
They're inside the 1. Dowling, the halfback. Pekarski was in there for a fullback, and Dowling gets it in for the score. 5 minutes into the first quarter, and Hills goes on a methodical opening drive and puts 6 on the board.
Really, you saw it, the full house formation, 3 running backs in the backfield, and you saw High Pointers really frazzled by it. I mean, they only had 1 yard to go, but Brian Dowling goes in untouched.
Good overall play calling on the drive by Coach Olsen, starting off with a few scrambles by his son Kevin, and then giving the ball to the playmaker Brian Dowling, and it worked out well with the touchdown.
A great statement drive from Wayne Hills to quiet the High Point crowd. And now Mike Drees is on to attempt the extra point. Eugene Lowe, the holder. And kick is up and perfect. 7-0 Wayne Hills with 7:04 to go in the first, and High Point's offense hasn't even seen the field yet.
You mentioned Eugene Lowe before being the blocking specialist. I'm beginning to notice that he does a lot of the unnoticed jobs on this team. He's a great blocker. He's the placeholder for Mike Drees when he goes for kicks. So Eugene Lowe really does a lot of the unnoticed jobs that really make the difference in football games.
Well, let's take a look at our replay on that 1-yard push across the goal line. There's the goal line look, and Dowling clearly getting across the goal line, never even was tackled. But you guys bring up a great point. I mean, you can't say enough about Eugene Lowe. Doesn't get his name in our broadcast too often, but he's just one of those guys that 10 years from now, Coach Olsen's going to look back and say, those teams would not have been nearly as good without Eugene. He's a captain on this team, a great role model for these kids, an A student in the classroom, and an A man in life. And Eugene Lowe is going to go a long way after he graduates from Wayne Hills, and just bringing the intangible things to a football squad that every coach wants.
Absolutely, John. And this will be an interesting kickoff. This quick kick that Hills received left them good field position, and they ended up scoring. So we'll see how the kickoff here will affect how High Point does.
Well, certainly High Point's chance here to take the momentum right back as their offense is going to take the field for the first time. The kickoff is going to be fielded from the 7. Across the 20 goes the return man, and he's taken down immediately at the 21-yard line. So that's where senior quarterback Kevin Fasano will lead his offense onto the field. a senior-laden squad on offense and defense. They start 10 out of their 11 starters both ways are seniors. Fasano, the captain, quarterback, he runs best. He's not a passing guy. He does have 474 yards through the air, 6 scores and 2 interceptions on the season for Fasano. But his main guy is Austin Caldwell, the fullback in the backfield. So we'll see what the Wildcats elect to do on offense. They have a lot of guys who they spread the ball out to. 4-4 formation for the Wayne Hills defense. And it's going to be a handoff to the right, nothing there, eaten up. No gain on the play.
We talked earlier about how pumped up not only the High Point team is, but also the fans that traveled over an hour to get to this game. And it's easy to see why, with 20 to 22 starters on this team graduating this year. So this is really their last year, unless they have great backups. This is really their last year to get to the state finals.
Well, on the first play, they went right to Caldwell, their leading rusher, 763 yards on the year, and he was stuffed for a loss of 1. They spread the field with 3 receivers now. Man goes in motion, and Fasano's going to keep it this time, and he's taken down from behind. Fasano had a little bit of room, but the hole closed quickly. He only picks up 3, and it'll be 3rd and 8 for High Point. Let's take a look now at the Wayne Hills defense. There's your defensive line, Davies and Greenfield at the end. Joe Lane and Roberto Alvarez, the juniors, in the middle. As the linebacking core, all seniors, Russell Pekarski, Nick Massey, Jimmy Kenny in the middle, and James Hogan on the end. The secondary will be Dowling, Drees, and Zaffino, as Drees getting the start at safety as he switched with Troy, who's been the safety for most of the season. And there's going to be a flag, probably a false start, on a very big 3rd down for High Point. We'll take a look at the flag.
Prior to the snap.
And it's going to go against Wayne Hills. They call offsides on the defense. So 3rd and 3 now for High Point. They get a break there, making it a much more manageable 3rd down. And an offense that doesn't pass very much, they need manageable 3rd downs, and the officials in Wayne Hills' defensive line gave them one right there. Line of scrimmage is the High Point 30. Fasano under center. And it's going to be a keeper to Fasano, nothing there. No gain, might have even lost a yard. And there's a fumble. Wayne Hills claiming they have it. And they do. Wayne Hills forces a turnover. As you see Greenfield off to the sideline, he probably forced it. And Wayne Hills will take over from the High Point 28-yard line.
What a momentum changer, John. You go from this team being pumped up, their fans pumped up, and then Wayne Hills have the chance to go up 14-0 in this first quarter.
Well, there's Matt Greenfield, the junior defensive end. Wasn't even on the radar screen as far as starters go early on in the season. He's earned his way into the starting lineup. He has 8 sacks on the season, and then you see him with a huge fumble recovery. And Wayne Hills' offense is in business again with 5:22 to go in the opening quarter. Great start for Wayne Hills. Olsen under center on 1st down. It's going to be a keeper to Kevin again, across the 25-20 and tripped up at the 16-yard line. That's a 12-yard run for Olsen and a Wayne Hills 1st down.
I really like the play calls by Coach Olsen. He has not let his son scramble a lot this season, and he's already scrambled 3 times in 7 minutes in this game, and it's really paid off with gains of about 8 or 9 yards almost every time.
Yeah, Kevin, as I said before, he might be forming into our new Mike Quinn, and Mike Quinn did great things for us. He couldn't win us the state championship last year, but 2 years ago he took it home for us.
And Mike Quinn had a great performance in this very game, the semifinals last season, hitting Omar Manazar in the end zone to send Wayne Hills to the finals. Handoff Dowling, taken down at the 15 of High Point. Finally stopping Dowling, but he does pick up 2 or 3.
Nothing doing for that time for Dowling as he runs into the big defensive line of High Point. But it's the first time they've stopped him all game.
Bo Scanavino on the tackle for the High Point defensive line. Scanavino, Smith, Flynn, and Boyle, the defensive line for High Point. Boyle, a big kid at 6'4". He's headed for the University of Delaware after this season. Also a pass-catching threat as a tight end. Screen this time to the far side, inside the 10, all the way down to the 5 and toward the pylon. They're going to mark The receiver out of bounds at the 2. It looked like Zaffino coming out of the backfield. And Wayne Hills is going to have a 1st and goal. That was Zaffino.
We see Troy Zaffino getting a lot of touches in these past 2 games. Last game, he went in for Bryan and scored a touchdown. And now this game, I believe he's caught 2 passes so far, almost a touchdown on that one.
Like you said, Nick, he not only caught a touchdown pass last week, but he also threw for one. And the great blocking there let him get all the way down to the 2-yard line.
I formation, fullback gave up the middle. Touchdown, Wayne Hills. 13-0 Patriots. James Hogan on that touchdown carry. And the Patriots are in control early.
Great play calling by Coach Olson. James Hogan really broke through that hole and got him for the touchdown.
Your key player right there, John.
Well, my key player has come through huge so far in the early going. Blocking for Dowling, stuffing the run of High Point, and right there he gets into the end zone for his 4th touchdown carry of the season.
Hey, John, let's not forget about Nick Massey's opening kickoff return.
Well, that's Nick's key player, and he did have a nice return. I'll give you that. Drees' extra point is good. 14-0 Wayne Hills. 4:26 to go in the first. As big of a statement as they made in the first quarter and first half against Wayne Valley, they might have even done better tonight.
You know, I missed the pregame, guys, and I know it's 14-0, but the game's not out of hand yet. So I do want to give my key player of the game, and it's someone we don't, who doesn't get a lot of credit, and it's Mike Drees, because in a cold game like tonight, kicking could be a big factor if it gets close.
Very good point, Alex, and let's take a look at the replay of that. Dive across the end zone for Hogan. It's going to be tough to see on the far side there. But there you see James crawling through, rolling around, and getting through that High Point defense that has had such a strong season this year, only losing to Morristown and Pope John this season. 8-2 record, but they just took a serious blow to the jaw, down 14-0 early on in the first quarter. But the good news for them is they have 3.5 quarters to come back. And as soon as momentum swings their way, they'll look to take advantage of it, something Wayne Valley certainly couldn't do last week. They got their breaks here and there, but they just didn't capitalize. That offense was absolutely anemic for the Indians last week. Drees' kick is a strong line drive fielded from the 7. The Wayne Hills kick team doesn't even have to make a play. The return man slips at the 23. And that's where Fasano and the offense will start their second drive.
You see Kevin Olson slip at the beginning of the game. Now you see the return man for High Point slip. Maybe it's a problem with the turf. Maybe it's a little wet from the dew. I don't know. But maybe it wasn't all Kevin Olson's fault that he slipped on that first play.
Well, if there's dew on the field, it's going to become ice pretty soon. The temperatures continue to drop here at Wayne Hills. It's the coldest game that Wayne Hills has had to deal with, probably. High Point's coldest game as well. So Fasano under center. Pekarski showing blitz off the end. And it's going to be a keeper for Fasano. He dropped the ball. Wayne Hills has it. It's a matter of whether he was down. It looks like it's going to stay with High Point. From the naked eye, I thought Fasano was down. Did a great job of fooling the Wayne Hills defense right there. A lot of people thought that was a give up the middle. Fasano disguising it well and picking up 3 yards on the play to the 26.
Johnny even fooled me.
I mean, I had to pause the call. I didn't know who had the ball. I thought Fasano kept it, but the way the Wayne Hills defense reacted, it looked like the fullback had kept it. But Fasano picks up 3. Does more damage on the ground than through the air. High Point certainly not a passing team. Fasano with 590 yards on the ground this season, more than he has through the air. Motion from High Point. Fasano keeping it to the right side. Not much there, but flags fly from all angles. 3 referees threw the flags at the exact same time. A gain of just 1 for Kevin Fasano. But we'll have to take a look at the flag.
It's most likely a horse collar.
And it's a face mask on Wayne Hills. That one was obvious. And it's going to cost Wayne Hills 15 yards and give High Point their first down of the night.
The way Fasano went down, you knew it was either a horse collar or a face mask because he got yanked down. Clearly, all officials saw it with the 3 flags thrown out instantly.
Yeah, when you see 3 flags thrown at the same time, you know it's not a messed up call.
So High Point getting to their own 41, their best field position of the night. with 3:03 to go in the first quarter. That was Gaccione going in motion. Fasano looking to throw. He's going to keep it, and he's met hard by the defensive line. A loss of 3 on the play. Fasano tried to scramble for the first time tonight, and Wayne Hills would have none of it.
I don't know what Fasano saw that time, but he ran right into the big lineman of Wayne Hills, and he got pushed back right into the ground.
I honestly can't even tell if Fasano's a lefty or righty. First, he hasn't thrown the ball the whole game. And second, he dropped back as a righty, switched to a lefty, and then went to a run.
I think he's a lefty just by the way he dropped back. But like Nick said, we really don't know yet. A loss of 2 on the play. Back to the 39. 3 receivers for the Wildcats. And it's going to be a keeper to Fasano. Option pitch across the 40 and taken down at the 46 by Jimmy Kenny. So a nice pickup there by High Point. A gain of 7 yards up to the 46.
Fasano pitched that ball lefty, Nick, but I mean, a lot of people can pitch balls with both their hands, so that doesn't really give anything away either.
We still don't know. Something you might not have saw on camera, you saw one of the High Point players getting mixed up with Kevin Greenfield because fake play, it faked me a little bit. Kevin Greenfield went to tackle him, he didn't have the ball, so High Point offense really unhappy about that one.
Well, 3rd and 5 for High Point. Trying to pick up their first down of the night by way of offense. Fasano under center on 3rd down. He might have to throw with 3 receivers set. And he's going to look to pitch it. It's an option. That's Gaccione toward the sideline, and he's pushed out of bounds well short. A gain of just 1, and High Point's going to have to punt.
And he pitched with his right arm that time, so we're getting nowhere right now.
Still a mystery.
Drees pushed him out of bounds. Drees playing safety tonight. He's been a corner for most of the year as he swaps with Troy Zaffino, the junior. And Brian Dowling getting his first chance to return punts tonight.
In your interview, John, Dowling talked about how the line of scrimmage, like Hills really had to be after the line of scrimmage, and you've seen it this drive with this big 3rd and 5 there that went for 2 yards.
Well, Monahan and Dowling have been the return men all season, and it's no different tonight. And they look to fake the punt, but then they kick it away. It's going to take a bounce at the 30. A Wayne Hills bounce going to be down at the 32. It looked like High Point wanted to go with some trickeration, but when the pressure came, the punter, Fasano, the quarterback, had to just kick it.
Greenfield almost blocked the punt that ended up taking down the kicker, but because of the near fake, there was no penalty called.
Well, Fasano with a punt of just 23 yards. But guys, the biggest indication of whether he's righty or lefty came right there. He punted lefty.
Not at all. I'm dominant left-handed and I kick right-footed, so.
Oh, well, we'll have to see.
We might not find out this whole game.
Davies goes in motion. He sets up a tight end. It's going to be a give to Dowling, bouncing it the opposite way to the right side. Dowling across the 40. There he goes, 45, and knocked out of bounds at the Wayne Hills 47-yard line, a 15-yard run for Brian Dowling.
Great play by Brian Dowling. That first kickoff of the game, the scrib kick, might have been to keep it away from him. That's what they want to do this whole game because Brian Dowling's eating them up right now.
You might be right there, and you saw how shifty he is. With a great cut, completely juked out the linebacker, ended up falling right after.
But you can't keep the ball away from him when they're on offense. And he took it for 16 up to the 50. That's where Olsen goes under center. It's going to be a pitch to Brian. He's going to get to the outside 45. Brian Dowling stiff arm and knocked out of bounds at the 44. High Point wanted a block in the back. I saw one there on the left side, but no call, and Brian gets 6.
I was about to say there are some big holes, and Dowling certainly getting a lot of yards, but like you said, there looks to be a block in the back right there that went uncalled.
I was about to say flags fly, but they never threw them. So 2nd and 5 for the Patriots in High Point territory at the 45. 45 seconds to go in the quarter. Olsen, play action, looking to throw for the first time. He's got a man deep. He goes to the intermediate receiver, and it's incomplete. Intended for Drees over the middle. or Zaffino over the middle. I'm sorry, that was Dries. I was right the first time. Olsen's pass too high and it was incomplete, so a 3rd and 5 now for Wayne Hills.
Might have been a little too hard of a throw for Dries to catch. You saw it. He really didn't have time to jump up and get to it, so a little touch on that, and Kevin Olsen might have had a completion.
A little overthrow there by Olsen on his first pass, on his third pass of the night, but his first deep ball of the night. But not really overthrown by a lot, so overall, relatively good pass.
Well, you just saw number 1, Andrew Monahan, on your screen. Monahan was running the deep route to the end zone, and he had a step on the safety, but Olsen elected to go to the intermediate receiver, and pass was just a little bit too high for Dries, having to throw it over the linebacker, and there was an illegal shift on Wayne Hills, but it was declined by High Point, so it'll still be 3rd and 5.
Not only did Monahan have a step, Dries was also relatively wide open, so the play action there and the pass really worked out after a lot of run plays in a row.
Well, High Point dodges a bullet there. 3rd and 5 for Wayne Hills. Olsen looking to throw again. Goes deep over the middle, incomplete. Too high for Eugene Lowe on the in route. And Lowe got a hand on it, otherwise that would have been intercepted.
Just not a very good throw by Kevin Olsen. The receiver was there, but just sailed it a little bit too much, and that could have been bad.
And you saw 2 plays ago, and on the last play right there, he is overthrowing his receivers tonight. We'll see if he can get you'll see if he can get going. Later on in the game.
Well, Olsen with a strong performance last week, but 0 for 2 so far tonight, and 2 passes where the receiver was wide open, he just missed them. But the way the rush game has looked for Wayne Hills shouldn't be a problem. But here, take a look at the High Point return man. Had a great season returning punt, Jared Maselli, averaging 17 yards a return. Take a watch as he's going to get a chance here. Oh, he's going to let it sail over his head. Dowling's punt down at the 1. What a kick from Brian Dowling. We've seen him do that time and time again this season, and High Point's backed up inside their own 1.
That was down by my key player, Mike Dries, and just a fantastic punt there by Brian Dowling with a fantastic Wayne Hills bounce, where it bounced up the turf and almost just stopped and down perfectly at the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I was going to say about Mike Dries, the effort from him. He saw the fair catch. Usually see people just storm the punt returner, but he ran right after that ball. He knew he wasn't catching it and dove and got it down at the 1 yard line.
Well, Maselli with what looked like a good decision. I mean, that ball was a line drive bouncing at the 5, and anyone would figure that that's going to be a touchback, but Dowling got it to stop at the 1. So High Point very backed up right now. Fasano under center, as he probably will be all night. He's going to give the fullback dive up the middle to Caldwell. Caldwell across the 5 all the way up to the 8, maybe even the 9. So Caldwell with the biggest gain of the night for High Point, 8 yards on the play.
You don't normally see a fullback as the primary person to go to on the run, but for this High Point team, that's what it seems like.
Well, Caldwell, the leading rusher for this High Point squad with 763 yards, averaging 8.5 yards per carry. He also has 9 touchdowns. Not Brian Dowling numbers, but certainly some pretty impressive statistics there for Mr. Caldwell. And he got his second chance of the night and picked up 8 there. 2nd and 2 going into the second quarter now.
You really need to define fullback for this team when every single person runs and every single person is over 6 feet tall and every single person is pretty big. So fullback is really just a name for the running back.
Well, now let's hear down on the field Anthony Scudillo and Joe Rapp with their thoughts on the first quarter.
Well, thanks, John. Now, Joe, it's early, but it's already 14-0. Wayne Hills is really dominating.
Yeah, and that's to say the least for High Point. Kevin only has 3 pass attempts, so they've been doing it on the ground and defensively. They played a great all-around game so far in this first quarter.
And that's also surprising because we said High Point had the bigger line, but it looks like the guys on the offensive line for Wayne Hills are really doing a great job tonight.
Absolutely, they're giving a lot of holes for Brian Dowling and Troy Savina to go through, and they've been doing a great job, and they've gotten a lot of yardage from it.
Well, not only is it the end of the first quarter here, but it is in Old Tappan as well, and Old Tappan has a 15-12 lead.
You can't be surprised by that. They're 2 great teams, probably the second and third best teams in this state tournament that we're in right now.
Joe, we're going to throw it back up to John.
Well, thanks, guys. Some quality information. 15-12 already in the first quarter over in Old Tappan. We expected a high-scoring battle, and that's exactly what's happening over there. 15-12 with Robertson and Fuller, the 2 great quarterbacks, going at it. So 2nd and 2 for the Wildcats. And it's going to be a keeper for Fasano over left tackle, and he picks up a first down, a gain of 4. First offensive first down of the night for High Point.
John, out of my own personal interest, I went and checked out Devin Fuller's highlight tape, and it's ridiculous. He is a great player. He runs, he can throw, he can do everything a quarterback should be able to do.
As there you see the visual representation, 15-12 Otapan. That game's going to go to the wire. It's going to be very, very high scoring. Both of those defense average, both of those quarterbacks exceptional. And both of them can run and pass. First and 10 for Fasano and the Wildcats at their own 14. And it's going to be a keeper to Fasano again. Makes a move across the 15 and is taken down at the 17. Pickup of 3 for Kevin. 2nd and 7.
I'm looking all over the field, and I can't tell who has the ball. I look at Fasano, and normally he takes the ball, and then I'm not sure if he has it, so I look at the fullback, and I'm just really confused sometimes.
Well, it's tricky. I mean, that's the goal of the offense, to have defenders going the wrong way. We see Navy run it to perfection at the college level, and it's very similar with this Wildcat team. Same formation, Caldwell in the backfield on 2nd and 7. And it's going to be a keeper to Fasano again, electing to take it himself to the 30, or the 20, excuse me. The gain of 2 more, and it'll be 3rd and 4 now for High Point.
The biggest problem I see with this run game is they can't get to the outside. They keep trying to break through the middle, where Wayne Hills has probably the best middle in maybe North Jersey, where they have Nick Massey at linebacker and then Roberto Alvarez and Joe Lane in the middle. So they got to get to the outside if they want to see progress in the run game.
3rd and 3 for High Point, maybe 4 from their own 20. Long snap count for Fasano. He's going to look to throw it. He's a lefty. Over the middle, complete to Coyle for a gain of 10 and a High Point first down. That was Nick Boyle, tight end number 3, the 6'4 recruit to Delaware over the middle for the completion.
That's probably going to be High Point's primary target because they can't get anything down on the ground. So we're going to look to them to pass a lot in the second quarter.
I'm glad we finally found out that their quarterback is a lefty after all that confusion. And after that one completion and that first down, the High Point crowd went crazy.
Imagine if they score, how crazy they would go. That was a loud roar from over there as Boyle makes the reception, the first pass completion of the game for them. And Fasano's going to keep it, not much. A gain of just 1 up to the 30. But guys, I mean, Nick Boyle, 6 catches, 134 yards. I mean, he's averaging 23 yards a catch, but the kid's 6'4", he's a Division I player. You'd expect High Point to go to him more often.
Did you say 6 catches on the season, John?
Yes.
This team, all they have to do is run if their Delaware recruit only has 6 catches.
Yeah, well, they run an option offense. They're not going to throw the ball every time. I mean, they're basically running behind Boyle, setting up to the left. This time he's going to split out as a wide receiver on that far side of the screen. But if you got a force like that, you got to use them. So 2nd and 9 for High Point. It's going to be a pitch to Gaccione. Fumble. It's loose. They continue to battle for it, and Wayne Hills recovers. A little hot potato, and Russell Pekarski comes away with it, and Wayne Hills takes over inside the High Point red zone.
Really just a bad pitch there by Fasano. He couldn't quite reach his target, and when you make bad pitches, something's going to happen with this Wayne Hills defense on their toes as they are, and you see Russell Pekarski with the fumble recovery there.
And the problem there was that Fasano definitely pitched that one with his right hand, which is not his dominant hand, as he just found out, and I'm assuming that caused the bad pitch.
Well, that ball took about 10 seconds to be recovered, and Pekarski finally fell on it. A hustle play coming from the opposite side of the field. Wayne Hills will start from the 21. Davies goes in motion. Olsen going to hand it off to Dowling, cutting inside, making a move and getting to the 19. That play appeared to be blown up in the backfield, but Brian withering his way down to the 19, a pickup of 2.
That's one of the great things Brian can do. He can make a play that looks like nothing into a 10-yard gain, a 15-yard gain, even a touchdown.
Well, 2nd and 8 now for Wayne Hills with 8:15 to go in the half. A huge break on that fumble. I mean, just proving the type of effect this Wayne Hills defense has already had on High Point. I mean, I'm sure in practice and against weaker teams, Fasano makes that play in his sleep, that pitch. That's what they do. And he fumbled it against this stifling Wayne Hills defense, as now Wayne Hills going to have to call their first time out of the half. We saw them take 3 timeouts in the first half against Wayne Valley. And now let's take a look at the replay from that fumble. He's going to get a good look at it here as Fasano saw the pressure bearing down on him and just pitched it without even looking. And there you see Pekarski finally getting it. But guys, I mean, the Wayne Hills defense obviously in the head of Fasano, because, I mean, he was about to get popped, and he threw it way in front of Gaccione.
Absolutely, John. You saw when the ball was on the ground, you saw about 3 High Point players and 7 or 8 Hills players wrestling for the ball, and because 7 or 8, eventually Hills ended up getting it with the turnover.
Yeah, Alex, you said Wayne Hills being able to force turnovers in this game. That's why High Point was 0 points so far.
Well, a great start for Wayne Hills. 14-0 and already down to the High Point 19. That's well within Mike Drees' range. I mean, it is cold tonight. We saw in the pregame warm-ups, Drees really wasn't booting it as well as he normally does. As there you see Joe Rapp and Anthony Scudillo getting the live shot on the sideline. Well, Mr. Hookstreet in the background, our advisor, as Olsen's going to go with the screen, complete to Dowling, gets a block across the 20, 15, 10, Dowling jukes inside the 5 and taken down at the 2. Some hip movement from Brian Dowling. Shifty maneuvers inside the 10, and he gets down to the 2.
Again, I'll say it, Brian Dowling able to make a play that looks like nothing, maybe only a 5-yard gain, into a 10-yard gain on the 1-yard line.
Of course, give Dowling credit there. You saw his shifting to the great juke, but also give a lot of credit to the great blocking of not only the wide receivers, but the linemen who ended up going downfield and making great blocks.
Dowling hitting the R1 button right there. I mean, he literally stopped on a dime and scooted to his right, and the tackler came up empty. Handoff up the middle to Dowling, and he's in for the touchdown. 20-0 Wayne Hills. Dowling's second touchdown run of the night, and Wayne Hills is in full control in the first half.
John, I'm beginning to start and believe in Joe Rapp a little bit. I mean, he predicted 48-14. I don't even know if we're going to see them put up 14 the way Wayne Hills is playing right now.
I'm sorry. Nick, you told me that you were expecting something close around 17-14. Well, Hills is go for 21 points right now. I was expecting a blowout, maybe not 42-14 like Joe Rapp predicted, but I don't think any of us expected this.
Wayne Hills making another statement in the North 1 Group 3 state playoffs, destroying crosstown rival Wayne Valley and obliterating this High Point team so far. Drees' extra point is true, and Wayne Hills takes a 21-0 lead with 7:35 to go in the first half. You can't say enough about Brian Dowling and the Wayne Hills offensive line.
I can't tell whether it's the quality of the competition that Hills is playing or just that Hills is playing really well, but if you look back at their state championship teams of old, of 04, 05, 06, they really clobbered their opponents in the early rounds and then in the finals when they got to the finals. And we saw with the 48-0 win last week and 21-0 now, it looks like they're playing just like that.
I mean, Alex, you're absolutely right. This is reminiscent of the 2006, 7, and 8 clubs that just destroyed everyone. They didn't even have a close game in the state finals. And this is exactly what this 2010 team is looking like right now. I mean, they've been linked with last year's club, inevitably, because a lot of the players are the same, and they lost a game to St. Joe's just like last year's team did. And the competition level hasn't been up to par this year. I mean, you had to play some poor teams like Eastside and Bergen Tech earlier in the season. I mean, Wayne Hills with a great performance against Ramapo. But outside of that, I mean, they haven't had really too many tough tests this season. And against Wayne Valley and High Point in the playoffs, it's been all maroon. So Drees' kick going to be fielded at the 15, taken across the 25, and return man stopped at the 27, and that's where High Point will start their drive. That was Maselli on the punt return. The kickoff return, as you see Monahan coming off the field.
As Alex mentioned before, John, I really don't notice it because I go to Wayne Hills, but I think that we're that good. It's not, the competition we're playing is obviously good. This is the semifinal of North 1 Group 3, but I think that Wayne Hills is just that good of a team. We're that good of a program. That's why we're back in the state finals every year.
This team is good. Don't get me wrong. High Point's 8-2. They beat some quality programs this year. They blew out some programs this year. And with the option offense, you don't expect blowouts, but they did it to 3 or 4 squads this year. And right now, I mean, they're looking like a poor team. It's going to be a give up the middle, a gain of just 2. Wayne Hills linebackers again stepping up to stop Caldwell. I mean, guys, we talk about it week in and week out. The front 8 for this Wayne Hills team, rock solid every season, and this year's team no different.
Yeah, the thing is that the linebackers, you're bringing in all seniors to play linebacker, so then next year it's going to be all seniors, and then the year after, all seniors, unless you have a junior step up. That's amazing, but it's really nice how they could adapt to it so well and play on this varsity level at the level they are.
Well, Santoro, the junior, worked his way in earlier in the season, but Hogan and Jimmy Kenny have played well and gotten healthy, and they've gotten that starting spot as the carry up the middle by Fasano is good for a gain of 4, 3rd and 4 now for High Point, but I mean, linebackers for Wayne Hills, always great tacklers, always tough-nosed kids, and Massey, Hogan, Pekarski, and Jimmy Kenny certainly bring that to this year's team. Not the tallest kids. Jimmy Kenny around 6 foot, the other 3 all under 6 foot, but they pack a punch, no question about it. They get leverage, and they really demoralize other teams. So 3rd and 4 for High Point from their own 35. Fasano going to look to throw to the far sideline. The pass is complete for a first down. Pick up a 5. They got just enough, and High Point moves the chains.
Now, John, we're talking about the defensive replacements for next year. This is really the big question that's been boggling me. You see Troy Zaffino getting in a lot of running back these past few games. Is he going to replace Brian Dowling next year? Is it going to be Dom Santoro? Or is it going to be Justin Beveridge, who we've seen get some snaps on this varsity level?
Well, all 3 of those kids have gotten carries this season. Santoro was the one in the first matchup against Wayne Valley to fill in after Dowling was injured. Beveridge has gotten a ton of mop-up time and rushed for over 200 yards this year. He has the most yardage out of any of those 3. And, of course, last week we saw what Troy Zaffino can do with some speed. He had a 20-yard touchdown run on a 4th and 1, which really set the tone against Wayne Valley last week. So, I mean, it really could be a 3-headed monster.
Yeah, John, you and me talked about it last week. That I think we both certainly believe that next year it should be a 3-headed beast with Zaffino, Beveridge, and Santoro, and we've seen them all share carries and all do pretty well.
1st and 10 for Fasano after completing his first pass of the night to Gashone, his leading receiver, and it's going to be a give up the middle. Caldwell ahead for a gain of 3. So to the 41 goes number 24. There you see him. So the High Point offense, not exactly explosive, but finally picking up positive yards consistently.
I think they're going to have to look for Fasano to throw the ball a little bit more. I mean, you see the 2 throws that he's had, those are completions, those are first downs. And then all the runs, they really haven't gotten much progress in the runs.
2nd and 7 for High Point from their own 41. 3 receivers set. Gashone in motion. It's going to be a keeper to Fasano. He keeps it himself across the 45. Fasano at the 50, and he's upended there by Brian Dowling. But Fasano with a nice move to get inside and pick up a gain of 8 yards and a High Point first down.
Even down 21-0, the crowd really got going with that big first down, just to show that they're not out of it yet.
It's very early in this game still. We're not even at halftime, and finally High Point's starting to be able to get some momentum. I don't know how halftime's going to do to them, if it's going to kill their momentum or if it's going to feed it with a good speech by the coach, as we saw by Coach Olson earlier in this game.
Well, Fasano and High Point showing a little more fight than Wayne Valley did last week, as Hills was up 31-0 at the break, up 21-0 now, but High Point driving, and a 2-touchdown game is not over by any means at halftime. Fasano's going to keep it again up the middle. Picks up 3 more up to the Wayne Hills 47. So like I said, not flashy, but right now they're picking up yards.
The thing with Fasano is, I think, personally, that he tries to go to the middle too much, and Wayne Hills has a great middle, as I said before. They also have fast corners, so maybe that's why he's not going there, but if you try one thing too many times and it doesn't work, or it only works once like it did 2 plays ago, you got to try something else, try to break to the outside.
Well, Dries Dowling, and Zaffino, the three members of the Wayne Hills secondary, all have tremendous speed. So Fasano's not going to break any 60-yard runs tonight. But I agree with you, Nick. I mean, the linebackers are the heart of this Wayne Hills team, and he's running right towards them right now. So 2nd and 7 from the Wayne Hills 47 for Fasano. Gashone goes in motion. They're going to hand it off up the middle. Nothing there. Fasano finally not keeping it himself, and he would have been better served to do just that. As the handoff up the middle goes to Maselli. And it's going to be 3rd and 7 now for High Point.
Yeah, you saw in that play, either Fasano could have kept him himself, he could have gave it right up the middle, or he had a trail runner in the triple option. He had him running to the outside, and I think they really need to try to give it to that guy running to the outside, see if he can make a play.
I mean, the game plan is simple for High Point. It's a triple option every time. They're either going to give it to the fullback or run an option to the outside. Wayne Hills is not the kind of team that's going to be ill-prepared for a game. For High Point, it comes down to execution. They're going to have to push Wayne Hills around, but right now the defensive line just too strong for the Patriots. I mean, it's really a wash up there, and the skill players for High Point not explosive enough like Brian Dowling is for Wayne Hills. Maselli in motion. It's going to be a swing pass to him, complete. First down for High Point. Right around the sticks is Maselli. A gain of 7 up to the 40. It should be enough. So Fasano with a nice tight spiral there, showing that he can throw the football.
I don't think we're going to see Fasano air it out in this game, but you keep getting short completions like that, it's going to add up sooner or later, and you see it right now. It's adding up as they're on about the 40-yard line, maybe even the 39 or the 40, but those short completions definitely add up into scores, and that's going to make this game that much closer.
Well, they mark Maselli inches short of the first down. I was sure he had it. But they gave Wayne Hills the call, and now a very big 4th and 1. You could expect to see Wayne Hills stack the line. Caldwell in the backfield. Wayne Hills in the same formation. Gashone in motion. Fasano going to keep it, and I think he's short. He did a good job of riding his offensive line as far as they would take him, but he looks to be about half a yard short. Actually, they're going to give him a nice spot. It's going to be a measurement. He might have it. It's going to be extremely close.
John, I think if they give him this spot, that might be favoring High Point a little bit. I didn't think he had it by what I saw, but we're going to see what the chains think.
I mean, you got a great look at it right there. It's going to come down to centimeters. He might be short, and he is by about 2 inches. Kevin Fasano was stopped short. As you see, Alvarez excited, and Kevin Olson's going to take over there with 2:13 to go.
I think the officials on the third down play gave Wayne Hills a very nice spot, which made it about 4th and inches. And then on the next play, they gave High Point a good spot, but not good enough with the turnover on downs.
Well, last week Wayne Hills was able to put 10 points up within the last minute of the first half. They're up 21-0 right now, which is the same score they were up against Wayne Valley. And they led a 2-minute drive to score, make it 28, and then Valley fumbled, and Dries kicked a field goal to make it 31. Similar situation. We'll see how High Point reacts. Dowling going to keep it across the 45. He's loose at the 50 and taken out of bounds at the High Point 48. A gain of 12, maybe 13 for Dowling, and his speed getting to the outside too much for the Wildcats.
I don't see any reason why Brian Dowling isn't going to be playing at a college football, or he's not going to be playing college football.
Well, Dowling told me that he was planning to verbally commit to UMass next season, had a full scholarship offer from them. Not willing to wait around and see if any D1A offers come around. I mean, UMass, very impressed with the coaches, he told me. And I mean, UMass just churns out NFL prospects at a D1 1AA level, so that's probably where he'll be headed. Olsen with the spin move pass, incomplete, intended for Zaffino. Kevin's pass again off the mark, and going to be a 2nd and 10 now for Kevin Olsen and the Patriots.
We've seen Kevin overthrow his receivers twice and underthrow that time ended up causing the incompletion. But back to Brian, the UMass Minutemen are really a top-tier Division I AA team, and I think he can do great work for them and lead them to a lot of success in college.
Well, according to their coaches, Brian's supposed to be the featured back next year. They promised him that starting job. something, I mean, you don't see very much, for true freshmen starting in college, but I mean, Brian definitely worthy. Olsen going deep for Monahan, passes a little too long. Monahan again with the step on the corner, but Olsen again off the mark for the 4th time tonight. But guys, UMass a solid program, but looking at Dowling's numbers, he deserves to go 1A. Didn't get the opportunity, but I can promise you he's going to prove those 1A coaches wrong when he puts up huge numbers at UMass.
I disagree with you there, John, that I think some schools certainly would have given him the opportunity, but UMass made him a great offer, not only a full scholarship, but a starting job as a true freshman. No Division I team, 1A teams would have given him a full scholarship and a starting job as a freshman. And I think that made him verbally commit to UMass.
That's a great point, Alex. I mean, we see what happened with Mike Quinn and other guys that have gone D1. It's great they go D1, but they're sitting the bench for most of their career, if not all of it. Olsen rolling to his right on 3rd and 10. Pass complete for a first down across the 30. Finally taken down to the 28, but there's a fumble on the play. The ball is loose. A huge pileup on the far sideline.
I think Hills has it.
They unravel the pile, and it looks like it's going to stay with Wayne Hills, and it will. Fortunate for the Patriots to fall on that after the fumble. That was Zaffino coughing it up. And he tried to make that extra effort after he was wrapped up, and it cost him. Cost Wayne Hills about 5 yards, but very fortunate to get that ball back with 1:36 to go. Hills nursing 2 timeouts at the High Point 33. The fumble was recovered by Hogan, my key player. Swing route to Dowling, gets a nice block from Monahan. Dowling across the 30-25. A block from Drees as well, and Dowling picks up a first down, a gain of 12.
Kevin Olsen overthrowing his receivers on the deep ball and then underthrowing them on the passes that are past the line of scrimmage. So the only option is to go behind the line of scrimmage, and he made a great pass to Brian Dowling, and Brian Dowling made something happen.
Even on the throw to Zaffino, a play before that, it was underthrown. It was a catchable ball and a nice catch by Zaffino, but it was underthrown. But I'm sure that did not have any effect on the fumble.
Well, Dowling, also the leading receiver for this team, 24 catches, 341 yards, and 7 scores, leading Wayne Hills in every receiving category. Olsen play action, looking to throw to his right, and it's tipped at the line. There's the Delaware-bound Nick Boyle getting in there to knock that one down. The clock will stop with 1:21.
Maybe more him being Delaware bound is for his defense rather than his offense, because he's only got 6 catches on the year. I believe 1 tonight makes it 7.
Well, my sources tell me he is going to college for defense, so he'll play defensive end over there for the Blue Hens.
And a great play there, just getting his hand up. He's 6'4" already, and with his hand up, he's got to be near 7 feet. And it's certainly tough to get the ball over a 7-footer, especially when he's right in your face.
Well, Kevin Olsen is a tall kid, but, I mean, Boyle was right in his face. 2nd and 10. Zaffino goes in motion. They give it to a pitch to Zaffino. I thought they gave it to Dowling. Zaffino across the 20, around the 15, and makes a nice maneuver down to the 13, 1 yard short of the first down. 3rd and 1 now for Wayne Hills. Wayne Hills will have to hurry now as the clock runs at 1:08, but they call a timeout.
I even got faked out by that one, John. I was watching Brian Dowling, and it seemed that Troy Zaffino had it after the pitch.
Well, both Kevins doing a good job of disguising the ball. We saw Fasano fool us on High Point's possessions, and Olsen doing the very same right there, taking a little page out of the High Point offense. That was a Wayne Hills triple option. They never run that. But Troy making a nice run out of it, picking up 9 yards.
I'm sure for Wayne Hills to get ready for this defense, their offense had to learn the triple option.
That's true. I mean, we know their defense can handle it. They've proven that tonight, and I'm sure they practiced it plenty in practice. As you see closest to you, Jake Shunky, another D1 recruit on this Wayne Hills team. Shunky around 6'4", 6'5", number 76, the left tackle, joined by number 70, Justin Avedisian at left guard. 2 of the strongest guys in this Wayne Hills offensive line. Justin joined by his brother Jason now. Midway through the season, that adjustment was made. Jason right tackle.
I was going to say they're both juniors, and they'll be back next year, and they're huge and a very important part of this offensive line.
Well, as many skill players as Wayne Hills loses next year, their line is the majority of them will come back next year. So that will be one of the strengths of Wayne Hills next season. 3rd and 1 for Olson. He's going to give the inside give to Hogan. Hogan at the 10-5 and into the end zone for the touchdown. James Hogan with his 2nd rushing touchdown of the night, his 5th on the season, and Wayne Hills goes up 27-0.
It's really unfortunate for some of these players that at Hills, the runners, that Brian Dowling had to be there because they could be starting running backs at any other program probably in North Jersey, maybe even in the state other than the Catholics.
I mean, you could say that with a lot of people, but I think it just says something when you come to Wayne Hills, and even when you're a backup for Wayne Hills, I mean, it's just being a part of this Wayne Hills team that's won 6 championships. It's just really something special. And I don't think they mind backing up Dowling, especially when they get a good playing time and a lot of touches like they do here.
And Hogan gets in on almost every offensive play. He's the fullback blocking for Dowling, and of course a starting linebacker, so he's on the field every play. Drees' extra point is good, 4 for 4 on the night. And with 1 minute and 2 seconds to go in the first half of action, Wayne Hills leading 28-0. Not much you can say about this offense. They've proven once again that they are just as good as this defense always is.
Really unfortunate for High Point. I believe that if they would have scored on that last drive that they turned over on downs, this would be a totally different ballgame with them having a momentum shift their way. But Wayne Hills with that, even recovering the fumble on that drive, that definitely puts some momentum in their favor.
Well, the only thing left to be determined tonight, I mean, granted, it's only halftime, but the only thing left to be determined tonight is who's going to win the battle of quarterbacks, John Robertson or Devin Fuller. So excited to hear the update from Joe and Anthony, to hear what's going on over there in Old Tappan. I would love to see that game. I hope that one of the networks in North Jersey picks that game up, because I'll watch that game recorded even if I know who won. It's going to be an awesome matchup. We saw Robertson against Wayne Hills, did a great job against them. Devin Fuller's supposed to be even better as just a junior. And that's going to be a battle over there in Old Tappan. Drees' kickoff, the best one of the night, fielded at the 6. High Point needs a good return. Maselli across the 20, and he's taken down at the 23. Guys, High Point going to go for it here or just take a knee?
You know what? I'm going to be an optimist here. I'm going to say they're going to throw everything they have. They want to score before the half so they don't go into half down 4 touchdowns.
Well, I would say go for it, but Wayne Valley was in the same position, almost exact same position last week. They were down 28-0 with about a minute left and ended up fumbling the ball, which led to another Wayne Hills field goal before the half. And I'm sure High Point's seen the tape and seen that happen, so it'll be interesting to see what they do here.
That's a very good point, Alex. This is the exact same situation Valley was in, down 28-0 late in the first half, and they fumbled the football, and Drees made him pay with 3 points. But I think they got to go for it. You can't go into the locker room down by 4 scores. Hogan splitting out as a corner on this play, and they're going to give it up the middle. Caldwell breaking free across the 30, picking up 8 yards. For the first time, Austin Caldwell able to break tackles. Clock ticking at 41 seconds to go.
On that tackle, Troy Zafino looked like he threw a little wrestling move in there, doing a nice takedown on that. He lifted him up the ground.
So 2nd and 2 is there. You see the update, 29-24, Old Tappan. What we expected, high-scoring game, quarterbacks going at it, trading blow for blow. I wish I was at that game.
I would love to see the stats from that game, John.
Nice pass from Fasano, completes it, and getting out of bounds is the receiver at the 40. That was number 2, Joe Drossel on the reception. And High Point going to move the chain, stopping the clock with 13 seconds.
Fasano was very calm under pressure that time, had a lot of Wayne Hills defenders in his face and made a good throw, ended up getting the first down, and the receiver got out of bounds. It's an overall good play.
Well, Fasano showing off the arm. He's made a couple of strong throws tonight over to toward that far sideline, and probably one more play for them. They have all 3 of their timeouts, but 13 seconds to go. Not exactly your passing team. So Fasano under center from his own 40. Going to look to throw. The pass is going to be incomplete. Receiver was better off missing that one. Intended for number 81, David Beltran, but incomplete. If Beltran caught that, the half would have been over.
John, seems like High Point's only passing plays are either ins or hooks or outs. They haven't really aired the ball out, and with 7 seconds left, that's something that I would like to see.
Yeah, Nick, you're absolutely right. That has been really the only routes High Point has run to this point. Nothing deep down the field, nothing that the Wayne Hills secondary is going to have to be worried about. So 2nd and 10 with 7 seconds to go, most likely the last play of the half. Rolling to his left is Fasano, trying to step up in the pocket, and he's sacked. A huge loss on the play, and that's going to do it for the first half of action here from Wayne Hills High School. 28-0 Wayne Hills. Guys, not much you can say about the half, but break it down for us.
Thanks, John. Well, Joe, it's 28-0 at half. This is my projected score. Only I need High Point to get a field goal. There's a long ways before we get to your projected score, but what have you seen that's really impressed you from the Patriots tonight?
And what can you really say about this game? I mean, Wayne Hills dominated offensively and defensively, but especially the lines. I mean, Brian Dowling and Troy Sfino have gotten a lot of yards rushing the ball, and so has James Hogan with 2 touchdowns in the first half. And the defensive line has been relentless, especially Peter Davies and Matt Greenfield, with a bunch of sacks and a bunch of hard tackles to stop.
Yeah, and that's also forced a few fumbles early for this High Point offense. And Joe, you basically took my point away from me. I think the line's playing fantastic. We saw against St. Joe's that the line was bigger than the Wayne Hills line, and they really dominated. And also the running quarterback issue was addressed early, and Fasano hasn't been able to do anything at all. So I think that's really a key for the Patriots, not only tonight, but whoever wins the Paramus and Otapan game, they're going to have a great running quarterback. And if Hills can address this one, I think that's only going to be great for next week.
Well, you're right. They're going to have their hands full no matter who they play next week with John Robinson or Devin Fuller. I mean, they're 2 great players, and they really can do whatever they want on the field. But let's see if they can do it against Wayne Hills.
Well, there's a whole half left, Joe.
Yes.
I mean, it's not over yet.
It's not
I mean,
carried
we're
away.
almost at that point, though, where the clock starts to run. But speaking of running, 2 touchdowns each for James Hogan and Brian Dowling tonight.
What can you say? I mean, John Vittas, I believe, that was his player of the game, James Hogan. So, I mean, he's right for the first time this season. I'm surprised. And Brian,
first time.
Brian, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I'm halfway there for my prediction, so I'm on the right track.
You know, it's just another day in the office for Brian Dowling. You know, day in and day out, this kid just seems to impress me so much. He is committed to UMass, which is a D1 college, and that's fantastic for him. I'm proud of him, and I'm proud to be, say I'm a friend of Brian Dowling. But, now that other people are starting to get the ball too, and the Wayne Hills offense just, ceases to impress me. It's incredible.
It's very balanced running ball and passing. I mean, I know Kevin has not had a lot of pass attempts tonight, but he's a sophomore. He's going to improve. He's going to get better and possibly an All-American his senior year. But about this season, Anthony, I mean, skill players at every position, wide receiver, running back, the offensive line. I mean, everybody's great. Coach Olson prepares his team in the offseason for playing games in November.
Well, that's why this team is so strong, so athletic. They have so much going for them, and this is a great year for Kevin to come into the system. He's, we can say he's inexperienced, but he's been in this program for years now with his dad coaching, and he really does. He has some signs that show that he's going to be a great quarterback. I mean, we've seen some throws tonight, the ones that went over Andrew Monahan, maybe a little overthrown, but that's right on the money. That's just barely over him, and for a sophomore to make that kind of throw is fantastic.
I mean, he's got the skill set of his older brother Christian Olson, who took a full ride to Virginia Tech. So he's got the genes. He has football in his blood, and I really think he's going to maybe play well throughout the game and throughout next week's game.
Yeah, and it also helps when your brother is a tight end for a professional football team. I guarantee he's had a conversation or two with Jay Cutler, the quarterback for the Bears. So even that guidance, even just talking to people in the field, even for us to talk about people who broadcast, it can only enhance your abilities.
I mean, no doubt. Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot of help. But he's gonna be a great player, and you and we're gonna come back from college next year and see Kevin Olson play well.
Oh, I'm gonna be calling Mr. Hookstreet every week to see how good Kevin is doing and how his progress is going. So that's it for here at the booth. We're gonna throw it over to Mr. Paterno and the Wayne Hills Marching Band.
game, I tell you that when we were down and Robinson scored a touchdown from about 15 yards out, I'll remember that was there were more Wayne Hills guys that could have passed that. And they weren't that far away from the sidestep and this one. I don't think anybody put the hand on him.
He's good. Kid's good. And the
I mean,
coach is good.
Better quarterback quality than Fuller? Not runner enough. I mean,
He runs the ball well. He's run for over 1,000 yards. Oh, yeah, he's great.
No, but he's hard to bring down.
Yeah, he's strong.
He's not that big.
No, he's not that big. He's strong. We killed them. You know what we did the first play of the game? My defensive end took him by his face mask, threw him on his head, ripped his helmet off. And I think it's something about, look, there's something about scrimmages when these white kids play in the city teams. They get all botched up. Yeah, and they can't do their thing. If it was a real game, they would have beat us bad. But at that scrimmage, we were so physical and mean, and he didn't even want to play, you know? We killed him.
I also think they're a better team than Frank.
Yeah, that's so good. Same with all the Panthers. Either game is going to be a game.
That's our weakness.
Right.
That's our weakness.
There we go. Did they get in?
That's our weakness.
Getting from there to there. Maybe I can get somebody to give me
31-29 Paramus at half. Oh my God. You got to keep me updated all night next week. We drove him the length of the field with 2-minute offense. He's on the 2-yard line, fakes a dive, takes it around end for a touchdown. 31-29 Paramus. I didn't know what you were doing.
What do you have, a shopping company? It's funny because I live in Morris, but the schools in Somerset.
We were looking at it. Nice. 31-29 at half. 31-29 Paramus. We draw 2-minute offense to end the half. Last play, he under center, fakes a dive, goes around end Robinson for a touchdown. Yeah, absolutely. If Hills can play pass defense, they'll win. Yeah, right. What's incredible is Hunterdon Central. They got a great football team. They also got a great soccer team this year. Usually you got one small sport. Against Appaluccio, the varsity game. They switched around the JV game. Now I have actually the JV game and then the varsity game. It's on MSG. And the varsity game starts at 3:30. I've been on the field for 6.5 hours and it's blazing hot. Holy shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, the magnificent sound of the Wayne Hills Patriot Marching Band. A standing round of applause is in order.
Welcome back to Patriot Stadium, where the Wayne Hills Patriots have dominated the High Point Wildcats by a score of 28-0. Let's recap the first half of action for you. If you're tuning in late, you missed a lot because Wayne Hills is up 28-0. You'll see some highlights here. This is Monahan on the opening drive, setting Wayne Hills with the 1st and goal. Dowling takes it in for the touchdown. Here's a swing route to Zaffino to the outside, and he gets knocked out of bounds, setting up Wayne Hills with a play from the 1, and James Hogan would scurry across the goal line for a 14-0 Patriot lead. On the next drive, Fasano, the quarterback for High Point, would give an errant pitch, and Russell Pekarski would eventually snag that ball, and that would lead to this Brian Dowling run across the goal line for the touchdown, 21-0 Wayne Hills. On the ensuing drive, Troy Zaffino would take this play to the outside and pick up some nice yardage. And that would lead to James Hogan's second rushing touchdown of the night as Wayne Hills goes up 28-0, which is the score right now. Now let's take a look at the numbers now from the first half. Hills, like I mentioned, with the 28-0 lead, they've dominated the rushing yards, 128-53. Passing yards not close either, 66-26. Kevin Olson over Kevin Fasano. But the biggest number in that half, 2 turnovers from High Point, leading to 2 Wayne Hills touchdowns. Hills adding 2 sacks as well to their record. Just a great dominating performance by the Patriots tonight, as well as the past several years. They've made it to the finals every year since 2003. And the way this game is looking, it's going to be no different in 2010. They're going to make it probably 8 straight trips to the state championship game. There you see the numbers from 95 on. 16 consecutive playoff appearances. 12 of those 16 playoff appearances ended in the state championship game, and they won half of those. So 6 state championships, and Wayne Hills looking to do that again this year after the absence last season. And you see this year's team with some pretty good numbers of their own. The 9-1 record, of course, over 2,000 rushing yards. The majority of those, of course, belong to Brian Dowling. Kevin Olson with over 1,000 yards passing, 1,171 for the team. They're 337 yards of offense per game. But the biggest number at the bottom of the screen, 387-88 in points. Wayne Hills dominated everyone they played this season with the exception of St. Joe's, who of course is a parochial team. So guys, we've only been here for a few years, but judging by the teams that we've seen, where does this 2010 team stack up?
Well, I talked to assistant coach Claudio Canonico a few weeks ago where he told me the team that lost last year to Ramapo in the state finals is actually significantly worse than the team this year, even with a new sophomore quarterback, Kevin Olson, at the helm of this team. Besides quarterback, where Olson replaced Mike Quinn, most, if not all, of the rest of the team is a lot better.
Yeah, definitely see this year 9-1 with that 1 loss to St. Joe's, but really not as close of a game against Valley as we had last year, so you could tell this is definitely a different group of kids, and looking only to get better into next year with 1 big loss, well, 2 big losses I could look at, the linebacker, the 4 linebackers that Wayne Hills has, and then Brian Dowling, who's going to be the biggest loss, so we're going to have to see if Wayne Hills can go back on.
Well, as you guys look forward to next season, I won't be here, so this is it for me, and this team has been as impressive as I could have hoped. I mean, you saw the team's while we were in middle school and moving up the ranks into freshman and sophomore year. Last year's team was down, obviously, with 2 losses, and this year's team lost as well. But they look, other than that loss, they look just as powerful as the teams from 4 or 5 years ago. And you got to give all the credit to Brian Dowling. He's the catalyst of all those points and really filling a hole that needed to be filled, because Kevin Olson, like Alex mentioned, the quarterback's the one hole that hasn't been filled from last year. Of course, Mike Quinn was tremendous last year in this very game in the semis, put up over 40 points on Sparta and had to make a big clutch throw in overtime to Manazra, who dragged the feed, and we know what happened there. So it's a testament to how great this whole entire team is, that they've been able to dominate their opponents with a mediocre quarterback. Because let's face it, Kevin could be great, but right now that's what he is.
Yeah, only a sophomore now. He's got years to improve, but you never see anyone their first year starting on a varsity field become an all-state or even all-American football player. So Kevin Olson's still got 2 years to make his impact on Wayne Hills.
You see it not only in high school, but in college and sometimes in the NFL, where a rookie quarterback is making his first start, and often he doesn't play a whole season, where Kevin has. And Kevin's played very, very well under the circumstances of him being a sophomore and new to the whole system and everything. But his play certainly could improve, and Hills really relied on Dowling for much of the season.
Well, Mike Dries getting set to kick it away for the 5th time this evening. And it is an end-over-end kick fielded from the 9. That's Maselli across the 20 and taken down at the 27. So a decent return from him. And that's exactly where Kevin Fasano will start his second half of action after a very rough first half. So, guys, if you're the High Point coaches, obviously in a deep, deep hole. But what do you tell your kids at halftime, and what do they have to do to try to stage a huge comeback?
They got to throw the ball. Simple as that. They got to throw the ball. The running's not working for them. They've had, I think, most of their pass attempts have been complete, if not all of them. So they got to give Fasano a chance to throw it, even if his arm hasn't been that strong in the past.
Got to agree with you there, Nick. I mean, running the ball is going to run the clock out and run your playoff hopes out. So 1st and 10 for Kevin Fasano in High Point, and it's going to be a handoff up the middle. Actually, Fasano kept that and fell forward for a gain of 2. But most importantly, the clock running.
It's very tough to see, especially with the option offense, who has the ball, because so many different guys on this team run the ball and have over 100 yards in the season rushing. But like you said, High Point really needs to pass the ball if they want any chance to win this game. They've actually been more proficient passing this game than Wayne Hills has.
Yeah, Fasano's already completed 4 passes tonight, which is above his pace for most games. He's going to give the option this time to Gashone across the 35 and knocked out of bounds at the 39. As High Points fans finally with something to cheer about here in the second half. Gain of 10 yards there for Gashone and a High Point first down.
And the key for that first down after the pitch was a big block that allowed the running back to get those 10 extra yards. It might have been a hold there, but it was no call, and they ended up getting the first down.
Well, High Point needed to do this. They could not stall on their first drive or the game would be all over. So Fasano under center again. He's going to keep it and get across the 45. And guys, I don't know if it's just me, but their offensive line seems to be getting much better push than they did in the first half.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the weather or a halftime speech or what, but it definitely seems like these runs up the middle that weren't working in the first half, either Fasano's finding a hole or the offensive line is giving him a hole.
Well, you got to give all the credit to Wayne Hills as offensive and defensive lines in the first half, because at least in my opinion, I thought this game would completely come down to the lines, because both offenses have had great seasons so far, and it would be up to their lines to continue to prove that, and up to the defensive lines to be able to try to stop that. We know Wayne Hills' lines are dominant, but High Point's one of the biggest that they've ever faced. Pitch to the right. The back getting across the first down marker. That was number 8, Sean Anglin, who is actually the 6th best rusher on this team. 142 yards on the year. They really spread the wealth.
like I said, there are a lot of rushers on this team that have over 100 yards rushing on this season. The sixth best rusher on the team is over 100 yards, which really says something about how much High Point runs the ball. And it works very well right there with a big first down, and it just got the High Point crowd really back into it.
Well, you can give their coaches credit for sticking with what's worked for them all year, even though it hasn't worked tonight. They have continued to spread the ball to all 6 guys that they give it to. This is going to be a pass deep down the near sideline, incomplete, intended for Joe Gashone, the leading receiver of this team. But Fasano and Caldwell are the main guys. They've touched the ball a lot. But Jared Maselli, Joseph Drossel, Joe Gashone, and Sean Anglin are also over 100 yards, all 4 of them. And they've got some shots to Sean tonight as well.
Fasano was very lucky on that throw. He underthrew his receiver, but luckily enough, overthrew cornerback Troy Zafina, who misread the ball. If he took 2 steps back, he would have had the easy interception.
Well, Troy was following the receiver as opposed to watching the ball out of the quarterback's hand. But on those deep routes, it's hard to see. When you're 40 yards down the field, it's hard to pick up the ball coming out of the quarterback's hand. But there's a personal foul on High Point, so that'll be disastrous for this drive. Second and 25, all the way back at their own 37. That's a huge penalty. If they don't get this, Wayne Hills' ticket to the finals is all but punched. And Fasano is stopped for no gain. So 3rd and 25, and the season of High Point probably riding on this play with 9:36 to go. As guys, there you see it, the most recent update from Oltapan. Paramus taking the lead over there in Oltapan, 31-29. So those quarterbacks continuing to go blow for blow, and just a historic game over there.
I mean, we thought 28-0 at the half. Here was a pretty high-scoring game. Those 2 teams combined for 60 points in the first half. That's incredible.
I mean, I'm sure both of those quarterbacks, primetime performers in both of their rights, have continued to do what they've done all season tonight. Fasano looking for the swing route, and it's batted away. And they're going to rule it a fumble. That was behind the line of scrimmage. And Wayne Hills comes away with it. That was Greenfield on the bat down, and that ball was ruled to be a lateral, and Wayne Hills smartly jumps on it.
We might be seeing the end of High Point right now. I mean, you give 3 turnovers to Wayne Hills, and they're going to make you pay for it. It's 28-0 right now. I really thought if they put that drive in, it would have been a different game, but the 10-yard penalty really killed them there, and now it's Wayne Hills ball in High Point territory.
It seems that every time High Point drives this game and really gets finally into Wayne Hills territory, gets the momentum somewhat their way, a big penalty or a turnover just really kills them, and right here it just happened again.
5 receivers for Olsen looking to throw complete to the near side for a gain of 5. That was Eugene Lowe on the catch. But Alex brings up a good point. Last week against Wayne Valley and this week against High Point, 2 teams, obviously they're in the playoffs for a reason. They've had success this season, but both teams shooting themselves in the foot with turnovers. High Point with 3 tonight. And it'll be interesting to see how Wayne Hills fares against a team that doesn't commit turnovers. As that pass is going to be complete. Look at the move from Dowling to the 20, coming back the other way, gets a block, and he's in for the touchdown. Look at that play from Brian Dowling, going the exact opposite direction from where they drew it up, and single-handedly puts it in for a gain of 21 and booking Wayne Hills' ticket in the state finals.
Don't say single-handedly there. That was a fantastic play and reversed by Brian Dowling, but great blocking by all other 10 players on the team, especially the linemen there.
John, last year I made this connection. I'm going to make it again this year. Brian Dowling reminds me of a college Reggie Bush, the way he could change directions and make a defense run after him like that.
It looked like they were walking after him. I mean, it was a great block out there by, I believe, Lowe. Whoever was on that right side at receiver made a good block as well. And Dowling, just so much speed, they were not even close to getting him. So the extra point sneaks through that left upright, and it's now 35-0 Wayne Hills.
The first guy to touch Dowling haven't touched it when Dowling was about 5 yards deep in the end zone.
Well, let's take a look at the bat down by Greenfield as well as the touchdown scamper from Dowling. Here's the turnover. Look at Greenfield blow this play up. I mean, it was a well-designed play and just got a hand on it, and they ruled it a lateral. Nice push from Pekarski to get the only man out of the way from High Point that could have made the play. And here's the touchdown from Dowling getting inside the pylon, and just no one able to make the play for High Point. And 35-0 Wayne Hills with 8:12 to go in the third quarter. Just an amazing performance from Wayne Hills tonight, showing why they are one of the premier teams in New Jersey.
I think the most impressive thing so far is that in the playoffs against two pretty good teams, they've allowed 0 points.
Yeah, it definitely says something about that defense, Alex.
Fielded on a hop at the 7. Again, the return man met at the 22. They haven't gotten past the 30 on any returns. That was Gashone on that one.
You saw Gashone slip there. The second time this game he slipped. Kevin Olsen slipped once earlier this game. So I don't know what this is about the turf, whether it's icy or slippery, but something's certainly wrong with it right now.
Well, considering this game has pretty much been decided and the clock will run on everything now, up by 35 for Wayne Hills, the turf doesn't really matter anymore because this is the last game that Wayne Hills will be playing on their home field here in Wayne. If they win this game, they will be headed to the new Meadowlands Stadium. First time second time I would have been in that building ever, so excited to get a chance to see that game as Caldwell with a strong run picking up 9 on first down. So Austin Caldwell, the senior, not wanting his career to go out on a low note, trying to weather the storm a little bit, and he picks up 9, the leading rusher for High Point.
Alex, what you said before about Wayne Hills' defense shutting out both teams in this playoff so far, that really says a lot about their defense. But I think in the next round, no matter we play Paramus or Old Japan, I think those quarterbacks are going to be able to put up points against this Wayne Hills defense. No matter how good the Wayne Hills defense is, those are still 2 college recruits at quarterback.
Well, absolutely, Nick. And if they're able to stop either Robertson or Fuller, whichever one's team ends up winning the game right now, I mean, that really says something about the defense. They've scored 83 points in 1.5 games and let up 0. And if they can stop those 2 quarterbacks, it just really says something about how good the defense of this team is, along with the offense.
Well, Alex, that's some impressive math right there, but it really doesn't matter who wins that game. I mean, we're really interested to see the score, but both of those teams, no matter who it is going to give Wayne Hills their biggest test of the season. Wayne Hills has proven they can beat Paramus. So personally, I would love to see Old Japan win that game just to say that Wayne Hills beat every competitive team in the section, because that's exactly what they would have done. If they beat Old Japan, they would beat the 2 seed. They destroyed the 3 seed in Ramapo. They destroyed the 8 seed in Wayne Valley twice, and they beat Paramus on their home turf. And they beat, of course, High Point tonight. That's almost every team in the section.
Well, that's true, but first they need to beat Old Japan first, or Paramus again. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. They're playing very well, but it's a whole new month when they play in the championship game.
Right. I'm just saying, I would rather see Old Japan because Wayne Hills already beat Paramus, and they've proven they can beat that team. And if Paramus wins that game, it would certainly take a little bit away from their championship, knowing that they lost to that same team. And this run is going to be whistled out of bounds after a gain of 3. Maselli on the carry.
I agree with what you said, John. And also, Wayne Hill's already seen Robertson play, and I think a lot of the fans, as well as the players, would love to see future Division I recruit Devin Fuller play because, and Nick, you saw his highlight tape. You said it's incredible. He just is better than everyone else on the field, and I'd love to see that in person.
I would love to see the Dowling-Fuller matchup, no question about it. But really, the thing is, Paramus is stepping up right now and showing that they're a state contending team. But they started the season 1-2, so they were never on the radar as the best team in the section. So Old Japan has been the biggest target all season, and the team that Wayne Hills has really wanted to face. As this pass is incomplete, Nick Massey absolutely crushed the intended receiver.
That's why I picked him for key player.
I mean, there's a point where you can't do that anymore, up 35-0, but it's still the third quarter. There you see Massey. But going back to the matchup in the finals, I would love to see Fuller because he's supposed to be the best player in this area. As there you see another score update, 35-30. So each team kicking a field goal, I believe. And they just continue to rack up the totals as far as points go in the third quarter. I don't know where we're getting this information, but it's great. So High Point's going to have to punt, and they've conceded this game if they decided to do that. And a weak punt, going to be down at the Wayne Hills 48. That's a 12-yard punt. I mean, this team's 8-2, but they're not playing like it.
John, I think we'll definitely see a better matchup in the championship game, whether it be Paramus or who I want to see, Old Japan, like both of you, and I'm sure most of the fans, because we haven't seen Devin Fuller play yet. And like you said, John, he's supposed to be the best in New Jersey. Only a junior, too.
I mean, Devin Fuller is probably one of the few players that has gotten more publicity than Brian Dowling this season. Like Nick said, just a junior. He can throw it, he can pass it, and he can play games with your defense. And, of course, Wayne Hills' defense, one of the best. They held one of the best offenses in the area in Ramapo to 14 points when they played him. As Olsen's going to go deep for Dowling. Dowling in stride, makes the play at the 20, and is taken out of bounds inside the 15. Add half the distance to the goal for the late hit. Perfect throw from Olsen, and Dowling made the play.
After 3 or 4 failures on the long ball, Olsen finally hits Dowling for a great gain, and then on just poor sportsmanship with the late hit on Dowling, who's already 5 feet out of bounds.
Yeah, definitely a great pass from Kevin Olsen. We've seen him throw the long ball pretty successful all season. He's been about, I don't know, I say 75-25 with them, but his long balls that he hits them right where the defender can't catch him and only the wide receiver can.
Well, Olsen had 2 47-yard touchdown passes last week, one to Dries and one to Dowling, and that was a very similar throw deep down the field. And Olsen going to pitch it to Dowling to the left side this time. Brian weaving his way inside the 5, taking down at the 4, but I'm going to make a point that I made last week as well. Kevin Olsen doesn't have to be great. His completions are not going to be that good this week. His percentage will be well under 50%. But if he can just complete 2 or 3 of those deep 50-yard bombs a game, that stretches the defense vertically to the point where they have to back off a little bit, and that allows room for Dowling to thrash you.
That's completely true, John. And to go along with that, a very, very big key for Olsen is that he cannot throw interceptions, because turnovers will just kill this Wayne Hills team.
And as iffy as Olsen has looked in some games this year, as that one's stuffed at the 2, he hasn't thrown picks this season. He's been pretty safe with the ball. He has 5 on the season through now 11 games. That's pretty good as it is. But 3 of those came in the 4th quarter against St. Joe's, where he was just chucking it up. So if you take that game out, 2 interceptions in 10 games is fantastic. So as long as he continues to do that, and if Wayne Hills' defense can stop Fuller at all, they should be okay. Handoff up the middle. That's going to be a touchdown for Wayne Hills. 41-0. Massey gets that one. His 2nd touchdown run of the year. With 1:36 to go in the 3rd quarter, it's 41-0 Wayne Hills.
Now, John, going back to the initial play that started that with the deep pass to Brian Dowling, let's assume that they play Old Japan. You have Devin Fuller, who, the quarterback, he also plays cornerback, and I've heard that he runs a 4.4. So you're getting 4.4 speed up against 4.4. Those deep passes to Brian Dowling might not be open.
That will be a beautiful matchup to watch. Dowling and Fuller, people have been waiting for that for a long time.
What should be even more interesting and exciting about that is Dowling was really overlooked by D1 colleges that Fuller is getting recruited by, and Fuller's only a junior, so I'm sure that'll fuel the fire that Dowling already has.
And if Dowling has a better game than Fuller in the state championship, then the D1 1A teams that are looking at Fuller might say, oh shoot, number 9 from Wayne Hills is even better. And then why didn't we see this kid? And to me, I'd like to ask him the same question, because if you've seen Brian's numbers recently, you would know that he deserves to be a top-notch recruit. But there you see the score, 42-0, late here in the 3rd.
Well, John, I think the only thing that's holding Brian Dowling back from a big Division I school, the same thing that held Christian Avedisian back, which is his size. Christian Avedisian was an all-state player. Brian Dowling's only about 5'9", 5'10", when you're going up against Division I running backs who are 6'2", 6'3". So his size has really been his biggest his biggest kryptonite for his career.
Well, that's definitely true, Nick. I mean, the knock on him is that he's been too small. He can't be an every down back in college. Well, he's been an every down back in high school, and he's done a pretty darn good job.
Just to compare him to, let's say, an NFL running back like Ray Rice, who's also very small, around 5'9", power back, who's also pretty shifty, just like Dowling. Went to Rutgers and was a second-round pick of the NFL draft and was a Pro Bowl player last year for the AFC and the NFL. So certainly, I mean, size doesn't always matter when it comes to running backs.
Well, I don't know if Brian packs the kind of punch that Ray Rice does, but I really do feel he could be an every down back in college. Of course, we'll see what happens after that.
Well, certainly few up to Ray Rice's skills, but he is very similar to Ray Rice in the way he runs.
Well, he does always fall forward, and that's something we always saw Ray Rice do at Rutgers. So that kickoff is going to be taken up to the 29, almost got to the 30. That was one of their best returns of the night. As the starting defense heads out there again. Coach Olson not holding back, as he never does.
We're seeing the same thing happen with Wayne Valley. I know there was some words exchanged between Valley and Hills, first the town rivalry, and the coach from Valley, O'Connor, was saying stuff. So I can understand why Coach Olson didn't hold back in that game and just went as hard as he could, scoring as many points as he could. And in this game, too, you have to send a message to either Paramus or Old Japan that you're going to play every minute like it's your last minute in this.
Well, I know blowing out a team and looking impressive is important, but you can't put your starters in for too much longer than they are now. You need your top guns in the state championship game. If you lose one of those, you will severely regret this decision. I mean, last year, Russell Pekarski got hurt in the semifinals, tore up his knee to a point where you can't even believe. I mean, he has metal in his knee right now, and he's going to have one of those metal detector cards the rest of his life. But the luxury that Wayne Hills has this year, as opposed to last year where they had to play an overtime game, is that it's a blowout and you can rest your starters. I know the game's in 2 weeks, but still.
Well, keep in mind, guys, that it is only the third quarter. I mean, for about 10 seconds longer. So I wouldn't expect to see many, if any, subs in the third quarter. But come fourth quarter, I would expect to see some subs put in by Olsen.
So Fasano going to keep it, and I think Alvarez took it away. And he did. The refs gave Roberto Alvarez the call. What a strong play from him. We got a perfect view of it from the end zone look. And Roberto Alvarez still playing hard to finish off the third quarter.
And there is a fumble on the play recovered by the Patriots.
And I think that's why Coach Olsen decided to keep his starters in, because they can make plays just like that.
I mean, you saw Alvarez shrug his shoulders. Brian Dowling did the exact same thing after he drew the 15-yard personal foul. I mean, it's not like they're trying to embarrass this team, but they are.
Yeah, John, I'm a big believer in, playing fair and not blowing teams out. But I guess with this Wayne Hills football team, they play every minute as hard as they can.
36-35 Paramus.
So now let's hear what Joe Rapp and Anthony Scudillo have to say for us.
Well, thanks, John. Joe, we've seen Brian Dowling, another game, spectacular. It's 42-0. It's, deja vu all over again. Last week, this week, complete dominance. But it's not only Brian tonight.
You're right, and it is the fullbacks, James Hogan and Nick Massey, with 3 touchdowns combined. I mean, really haven't seen them light up the board offensively this whole season. I mean, it's good to see him the game before the state championship game to improve and just have a great all-around game and give him confidence going into 2 weeks from now.
We talked about earlier a little bit of Kevin Olson. He has a few passes here and there, went to Eugene Lowe, but that's not it. That's really it. Well, we're going to throw it back to John and the guys in the booth.
Well, thanks, guys. You provided some great insight for us. There you see him over there on the scoreboard side of the field. Beautiful setup for this game. Anthony and Joe did a great job for us. We'll see them after the game for some quality post-game interviews. I mean, I'd love to hear what Dowling and the Patriots have to say after this performance. So stay tuned for that. A full post-game show coming your way following the conclusion of this one, as Dowling goes forward for a gain of 4. And to stay consistent with my opinion, he's got to come out of this game.
Who do you think's going to come in for him, John? I see Mike Urino getting in, actually.
Well, we've seen Beveridge come in every time Wayne Hills is blowing out a team, so it's got to be him. I mean, Zaffino's carries have come in meaningful minutes. but Beveridge has had the majority of those garbage time touches. So it's going to go to Dowling again to the right side, and he falls forward for a gain of about 8 all the way down to the 10. But myself, along with probably most of these fans, are holding their breath every time he touches the ball. There's just no need for him to be in the game.
Well, John, you see Coach Olson taking out the wide receivers. He put in sophomore Eric Moskal and junior Mike Urino, probably the future along with Troy and Andrew Monahan of that wide receiver core.
Well, a timeout on the field with 11:05 to go in the fourth. But we saw what happened in week 3 when Brian Dowling got injured against Wayne Valley, sucked the entire life out of Wayne Hills. They did not look like Wayne Hills for the 2 quarters he was out of the game. And the second he came back on the field, there was a murmur amongst the stadium, and the spirits of the fans and the players were lifted to a whole nother level when number 9 came back on the field. He was injured that game. He didn't have a great game that night. But just his presence alone went so far in motivating this team. And if he were to go down in a game like this, in a situation like this, going into the finals, Wayne Hills would have no chance against either one of those quarterbacks.
I completely agree, John. And we all know that Brian is the key playmaker. He's the captain of this team, and if anybody knows what to do with Brian, it has to be Coach Olson. So we can't argue about Coach's decision to leave him in, but certainly he has his reasons for it.
Actually, Alex, it looks like Brian Dowling and Kevin Olson are out, along with Troy Zaffino, Mike Drees, and Matt Greenfield.
Well, it sounds like Coach Olson heard me, because the entire second team is now out there. Monahan, the quarterback, handing it up the middle for no gain. As you see, as soon as that second offensive line comes in, there's just nothing there for Justin Beveridge, who had that carry. But Andrew Monahan, the junior signal caller for Wayne Hills, coming out there into the huddle. Monahan gets a lot of time at wide receiver in meaningful situations. He's the 3rd or 4th receiver on this team, but he does get playing time as a punt returner as well, and he's now getting action at quarterback. And he's going to keep this one coming to the near side. Shakes off a defender inside the 10 all the way down to the 5, and finally taken down at the 3-yard line. So a strong 8-yard run for Monahan, and it'll be 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 3 for Wayne Hills. They can get a first down without the touchdown.
John, you might not need to get used to announcing these guys, but me and Alex, these are going to be our guys for our next year of announcing these games. So it's nice to get a feel for who's going to be doing what next year.
Well, it's safe to say Monahan probably won't be playing quarterback next year, if Kevin Olson will, but these are the guys that you juniors will be seeing next season. So 2nd and 3 from the 4. Handoff to Beveridge, pushing forward right around the sticks. He stopped at the 1, very close to the first down. They spot it right at the 1, and they're looking at the chains, and they're going to mark him short. So it'll be 4th and inches for Wayne Hills. I mean, this would really put a dagger in it if they score here.
I'm not surprised to see Wayne Hills going for it. I mean, just the whole fact that it's 4th and inches. But I would have liked to see maybe get Anthony Jordan a kick.
Well, Beveridge gets into the end zone for the score. Justin Beveridge reading his offensive line and bouncing it to the left side. He gets in for the touchdown, and it is now 48-0 Wayne Hills.
I mean, the first and only person, to touch Beveridge on that play was his own lineman.
So 48-0 Wayne Hills. As Drees getting set. Oh, it's going to be Anthony Jordan, like Alex mentioned. Anthony Jordan, a very quality field goal kicker. Unfortunately, didn't get his chance this season with Drees beating him out for the starting spot. But we have seen plenty of Anthony in mop-up time just like this.
We saw him pick an extra point last week. And a lot of Drees' extra points are lobbed over the uprights and into the uprights, whereas Jordan's are line drives.
Jordan knocks him through with authority. We'll get a good look at it here as he will hit it perfectly through the upright. So 49-0 Wayne Hills with 9:01 to go. Guys, I hate to leave you hanging, but I got to head down to the field for our post-game festivities. I'll be out on the set with a couple of Wayne Hills players. You're going to get a shot to call these games next year, so Nick and Alex, I leave it up to you.
All right, thanks, John. So, Alex, luckily, we'll be seeing the people we're announcing next year being the whole second team for Wayne Hills, so we can even get used to the names, to the numbers, assuming that they all take the same numbers next year.
Well, luckily enough, we're both juniors, and a lot of the kids that are second team members this year are in our grade, so I already know most of the kids. So I shouldn't have that big of a problem with the adjustments.
So 49-0. Really, the only person that predicted it was Joe Rapp. He predicted 48-14, and Anthony Scudillo predicted 28-3. Myself predicting a close game along with John. That's what we like to see, but you can't always get what you want, as the Rolling Stones once said. So we're going to have, it looks like Anthony Jordan on the kickoff, so Jordan getting some nice garbage time at the end of the season. It's always nice to see that as he's a senior, see him get his final goodbyes to this Wayne Hills team.
Both Dries and Jordan are both seniors, so who's going to be the kicker next year, Nick?
I've heard some rumors that there's a sophomore, I think his name's Rob Levine. He might be the front runner for the kicker. I don't think the junior grade, which is our grade, really has a kicker. I heard punter, maybe Joe Lane, but I don't know about that. We'll have to wait and see next year, but that's definitely an open position. As you see, High Point fielding it. This whole second team is in for Wayne Hills, and they still keep High Point behind the 30-yard line.
I played soccer for years with Rob Levine, so I know he has a great leg, so I can certainly see him doing the kickoffs and the field goals. And I have seen Joe Lane take a few punts in practice, and he certainly has a good leg also.
Yeah, after last year with Divers, he's playing in a Division I program in Lehigh. Kicker was definitely a big question too. It was between Dries and Anthony Jordan who was going to kick, but there was really no talk about 2 years into the future who was going to kick. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Rob Levine, though, does look like the front runner for next year. So we're going to see High Point take it at about the 27 with continuous clock. We got about 8 minutes left in this game. Fasano under center. One wide receiver. Oh, excuse me. Fasano's not under center anymore, I believe. As you see, about no gain there for High Point. So, Alex, what do you think so far has been Wayne Hills' biggest test of the season?
Well, I thought it was going to be Ramapo because both teams were undefeated going into the game, but Hills won that handily 35-14 at Ramapo, which is a very hostile environment for Wayne Hills. And with all the momentum from that game, I as well as a lot of other students and fans of Wayne Hills thought it was going to be an easy game at St. Joe's, and we got destroyed 35-14. And I think that was certainly the biggest test of the season, the only game we lost. And that was the game right before the playoffs started, and Hills has not been tested so far in the playoffs. And I just got an update that Paramus just retook the lead 42-41 over Old Japan. So I think both those teams who are clearly high scoring could certainly challenge them in the championship game in about a month.
Yeah, it's a big question who we're going to see next game, but for this game, Fasano's out, and we have number 2, Joseph Drossel, the senior, and looks like he's making something happen against this second team, but really it's the second team. You can't compare him to Fasano, who had really nothing going for him in this whole game, except for a few nice screen passes and a few nice little hook passes. So this game pretty much over. We have 6.5 minutes left. Wayne Hills up 49-0. Really, the turnovers have helped them to win this game, as Drossel under center, one wide receiver wide. Drossel's going to scramble to the right. Joe Lane chasing him down. And it looks like he'll pick up the first down for that one. So moving the chains is Joseph Drossel, but it might be just a little bit too little, too late.
I was about to say that Fasano actually did not have that poor of a game. He led his team, I believe, in both rushing and certainly passing. And he had a better game passing. Aside from the one big pass that Kevin Olsen had, he really had a better game statistically with more completions than Kevin Olsen did. But it was the turnovers that really killed High Point tonight.
Yeah, we saw at halftime I believe it was 28-0. Wayne Hills didn't have 400 yards offense. I think they had 130 rushing and about 60 passing. So no overwhelming numbers there, but the biggest number on the board was the 2 turnovers for Wayne Hills. As you see, Drossel make someone miss there, but he's going to get taken down behind the line. So that'll be second down for High Point.
you saw the Hills defenders there really try to strip the ball away from Jossel, and just good ball carrying, holding on to that ball, especially after, I believe is it 4 turnovers tonight now?
It's something close like that. And here's our update in the Ultapan Paramus game, as Ultapan's down 41-42 in the fourth quarter. So we're going to see that one. That's going to be a nail-biter to the end. Alex, as John said before, this is on TV. I'm going to find some way to watch it because this looks like it's an all-offensive battle, and that's what everyone loves to see.
Well, I'm sure it'll be on TV. A 42-41 game does not go unnoticed, and I can't wait to watch it.
Handoff up the middle. High Point bounces to the outside. Looks like we're going to have the biggest gain of the night so far. Cuts back inside is number 8 for High Point, Sean Anglin. So making a little bit of noise is High Point, and they're going to move the chains.
Anglin's a junior fullback, has the 7th most amount of rushing yards on this team with 142 and 2 touchdowns. And you saw a big guy broke a few tackles there and cut in and out. So junior, with a lot of seniors around him, will probably be the starter next year.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the starters that they're going to return. The only starter on the offensive push for High Point, as you see, right up the middle again. High Point's going to have a, looks like we have a fumble on the field as Wayne Hills is motioning. And Wayne Hills is going to get the ball back. Looks like it's recovered by number 23, Dom Santoro.
And once again, High Point was driving it in Wayne Hills territory when they fumbled. That's the 3rd time they fumbled in Hills territory today.
Definitely the biggest thing Wayne Hills has been able to do this game is just kill High Point's momentum right when they get it. I mean, they've driven a few times. I mean, the biggest time I can remember was going into, I believe it was in the second quarter where High Point was only down 28-0. Or no, it was going into
21-0.
21-0, yeah. It was 21-0, and that could have changed the game if they had scored there, but they just couldn't. So now Wayne Hills, I think that's Dom Santoro there diving. Looks like he'll just get back to the line.
Just tripped up there by a High Point player who was on the ground.
Yeah, that's always one way to take them down. Just dive at their feet and hope they trip.
But
again, Wayne Hill's whole second teams and Kevin Olson's not even in to juke up the stats.
I mean, there's no point in risking any of your starting cells, especially when you need them in a few weeks for the championship game against one of the 2 high-scoring teams, Ultapan or Paramus.
So we see Andrew Monahan with the pitch to Dom Santoro. He'll run to the outside. He's going to pick up about 5 on that one, so we're going to see 3rd down for Wayne Hills. Now, this second-team offense seems like they're having their way with what is a semifinal caliber team in High Point, so that just only shows high things for next year, what we're going to be looking at.
Well, certainly Kevin Olson, this is his 11th start, sophomore, and had a mediocre season, as we've mentioned a few times, but he'll have another year to mature, and I think he'll still be back and firing next year. We're losing Dowling, which is all-state player, a huge loss, but we have a 3-headed monster in Santoro, Zaffino, and Beveridge to make up for that. So overall, I think the team could compete next year as well.
I see Dom Santoro taking most of the snaps on this drive so far. Andrew Monahan with pitches to him. But yeah, all those running backs, something nice about them, they all have something different to bring to the table. Dom Santoro seems like he's a big guy. He could push people over, but he's also fast. Troy Zaffino seems like he's going to be the guy to make people miss. And when you want...
As Olsen gets the Gatorade bath, and that cannot feel good, Nick.
Yeah.
We are freezing our butts off up here, and when you get doused with cold water in cold weather, that is just painful.
Yeah, maybe they're making it a tradition to do it on the semifinal game also, but yeah, Olsen gets the Gatorade poured over the head as Dom Santoro taken down. Looks like he'll get a little bit behind the line of scrimmage. But as I was saying before, all those running backs have something different to bring to the table. And I'll go back to Justin Beveridge. He's going to be the guy. He looks like a 3rd down running back where he's just going to run right up the middle. And because he's not afraid to get hit, he's the hardest runner I've seen on this team.
And to go along with next year, possibly the biggest factor for Wayne Hills is that a lot of their line will be back. You have both Avadisians, Joe Lane, and Roberto Alvarez will be back. So certainly the line will be strong next year.
Yeah, and Greenfield also, defensive end on defense. He's going to be back. Greenfield really getting his chance to play when, another Gatorade getting poured. Another one on Coach Olson. Coach Olson gets poured with another Gatorade. That's not in your camera view, but we see not Olson, but that's one of the assistant coaches.
But on Claudio Canonico that time. And with 4 seconds left, 3, 2, 1, Wayne Hills has won this game 49-0, Nick, and are advancing to the North 1 Group 3 state championship for the 7th year in a row. What do you think, Nick?
Really, I mean, no one was expecting this other than Joe Rapp, so I'm going to give Joe Rapp the credit on that call. 49-0, Wayne Hills shutting out both of their playoff opponents. So we're going to see Wayne Hills play either Paramus or Old Tappan in the final. That's going to be a great matchup. We're either going to see Devin Fuller go against the Wayne Hills defense, or we're going to see John Robertson. Now, Alex, we talked about this once. We're going to talk about it again. Who would you want to see?
Well, Hills has already seen Robertson, so if Hills would like a win, they already know what to expect from Robertson, but Fuller certainly is one of the most exciting players in North Jersey, and I think Wayne Hills would love to see him as well as the fans. And I think both teams, both quarterbacks, however, will provide a challenge to Wayne Hills because they're both mobile quarterbacks and can do so much with the ball.
Yeah, well, we saw a mobile quarterback tonight, but he wasn't really two ways, as John Robertson and Devin Fuller, they are both two-way quarterbacks. They can run it or they can throw it, and that's definitely going to be the double threat. It's going to be a problem to Wayne Hills. But with this game tonight, who was the biggest surprise to you, Alex?
I gotta say James Hogan had two touchdown runs. We expected the 2 touchdowns from Dowling. He always comes through, but Hogan had 2 big touchdown runs. He just pat on the lead. But I think the biggest surprise tonight was just a score of 49-0. We certainly did not expect that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was what I wanted more than speaking of what was really going to happen. That happened last week, too. I predicted a close game against Wayne Valley. But this game, 49-0. I wanted to see it close, but we can't always see that, as Wayne Hills blowing out both opponents in the playoffs so far. That's been a very common thing for Wayne Hills so far.
There seems to be a pattern going here, Nick. Both of us thought last week that the Wayne Hills-Wayne Valley game would be close because Valley always plays Hills very tough, and it was 48-0. And we both thought this game would be relatively close because High Point has such tall and big players, and it was 49-0. So both blowouts and shutouts. What do you think of that?
Well, it didn't surprise me. Well, it did surprise me in both games, but in the Valley game, more surprised me because of the rivalry with Wayne Valley. But this is going to do it for us up in the booth. We're going to send it down to John Vittas, Joe Rapp, and Anthony Scudillo on their post-game thoughts.
Well, joined here on the field, I'm John Vittas here with Anthony Scudillo and Joe Rapp. Guys, after the 49-0 thumping that High Point took tonight from Wayne Hills, Wayne Hills dominated this game in all aspects. I mean, break it down for us. What did they do best, and what surprised you tonight?
Well, they did what they do all season, John. They put the ball on the ground. They run through defensive line and secondaries, and they score points, and that's basically what they did today.
Joe, you're right. The running game was fantastic, but what I was really impressed with was the offensive line, because I was talking to Jason and Justin Avedisian on the sideline, and they were saying how big these kids really are, and for them to go and really destroy the defensive line of High Point is something, that can build for them next week when they're going to see a running quarterback like they saw tonight.
I mean, Anthony brings up a great point. The skill players from Old Tappan, Paramus, and Wayne Hills are tremendous. There's no question about it. But Wayne Hills has faced other teams with great skill players that they dominated. It comes down to the battle in the trenches. Which line is going to give their superstars more chances to make big plays? So, guys, I mean, Paramus and Old Tappan, it's kind of a wash. Either one, we're going to be ready for the game. Both of them have tremendous quarterbacks. Who would you rather face, and is there any difference between the two?
Well, I think I'd rather face John Robinson just because he's not experienced as Devin Fuller is. I mean, Devin Fuller has been starting since he was a freshman, so he knows his offense better than anyone out there. So I think John Robinson is the guy to play there.
Joe, I couldn't agree with you more, but I'd like to, maybe add to your point a little bit. I think the fact that they've already seen him once is going to affect the game much more if they play Paramus. Also, for Paramus to come in and see Wayne Hills again for the second time, but Wayne Hills can adapt their defense to an offensive player whenever they want. We've seen it before. We saw it tonight. So for them, I think Paramus would be the team of choice.
See, because Wayne Hills has played Paramus, we know they can beat them, and we know they can dominate them. But to me, I want to see Old Japan in the state championship game. That game's going to come down to the wire. We still don't know who won. Word on the street is that those guys, those two quarterbacks, have combined for over 1,000 yards tonight. It's going to be a legendary game over there. But either way, it's going to be a tough game. I really want to see Old Japan because Wayne Hills already beat Paramus. They dominated Paramus. We know they can beat them. So I want Wayne Hills to go against the team that's been undefeated all season in Old Japan. So, guys, we're going to kick you out right now. We're going to bring in some members of this Wayne Hills Patriot team, led by number 7 linebacker Russell Pekarski. Russ, I mean, you guys had great game tonight all around. They had a good offense coming in, triple option threat. You faced a triple option before. You shut it down before. But this triple option was probably the best you guys have ever had to go up against, considering how big their line was. I mean, defensively, what did you guys do at the linebacker level and throughout the defense to stop them? Because you completely shut them down.
Well, basically, is whenever they got any yards, it was because one person didn't do what they were told. Because at all times, you need to be in your certain gaps. And a whole week we were working on it. And we were working on hitting the fullback while he was getting the ride for the option. And they fumbled a lot of times on it because while they're getting hit, they can't really grab the ball. Our linemen had the right gaps at all times. Our linebackers had the right gaps most of the time. And if you practice it well enough like we did and we learned it, it really can't really work against us. Because they're a slow team and we're meant for speed.
You mentioned the fumbles that they had. How big were those to really lift you guys? You had the one recovery that was a clutch play, but without the turnovers, you think it would have been a much closer game?
I mean, whoever turns the ball over more is going to lose. It's just how it is in any game. It's everything. It's just I think the fact that we capitalized off it. It had nothing to do with they turned over. Because there was actually one time when they turned over, we got the ball, and we didn't score, and they were back into it. Like it doesn't matter. We capitalized off of it, which made it 10 times better, and it kicked them down, and they didn't want to play anymore. So basically, it is what turned the game around, but really because we finished on it.
Now I hate to bring it up, but this game last year, we know what happened with your serious knee injury. You weren't able to play in the finals. Leg. We'll go with leg injury more than just the knee.
Yeah.
How big was it today to not have to play a competitive game like that? Pretty much dominate your opponent and be healthy going into your final. Because it's the first start you'll get in the state final.
What really creeped me out was last year was 26-7 at halftime, I believe, or something like that. And then I got hurt in the third quarter. And we were up like 28-0 at this time. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, here's what happened. Like, this is when I got hurt again. And I don't know, you can't play like that. If you play like that, you're not going to play well. Like, it could happen anytime. It's a rare occurrence. Everyone gets injured. I mean, like, I don't think you break your leg every so like often. It's not like a pretty big thing. I mean, it happened to happen. It was bad luck. But now I'm in the state game, and I'm healed, so I'm good to go.
Well, Russ, we're glad you're healthy. Great game tonight. Good luck in the state finals.
Thank you.
So you can hand off the mic to the next man in line. Let's have Eugene and James come on here. Eugene Lowe, senior wide receiver, and James Hogan, a pair of captains coming on the set now.
There you go.
Guys, take a seat. One of you.
Yeah, Jim, you want to take a seat? I'll take a seat. Have a seat.
Guys, another great performance tonight. You destroyed Valley. You destroyed this team. Both teams were expected to give you quite a fight. But, I mean, you two are the captains. Assess this game tonight. Who stepped up for you guys? Was it an all-around performance, or was it just a complete demolition of this team?
I mean, it's obvious to see. Everyone steps up when you win 49-0. There's no one man who carries this team. But we all know we fight as a team, we win as a team, and now we're going to go celebrate as a team.
So, James, you had 2 touchdowns tonight. Great job coming out of the backfield to spell Brian every now and then. They expect the ball to go to number 9, but when you get it, you run just as hard as he does, and you got into the end zone twice tonight. I mean, what is it like coming in as a fullback in the lineup? You're not getting the ball on every carry. Coming in there kind of, in and out, how do you stay fresh and make those runs that you did tonight?
Honestly, I like blocking for Brian all game. Because honestly, I can block him anywhere, any place, outside shoulder, inside shoulder, and he makes a perfect cut, and he gains yards. And when I get the opportunity to get the ball, it's normally wide open because they're all expecting Brian to get the ball. So even if I get 1 or 2 carries, they're still for big gains. I had 2 carries for 2 touchdowns. They're wide open, both of them wide open. So I can't ask for a better job from the line and everyone else.
Now, Eugene, you're a smart guy. We were talking about it on the broadcast tonight. We were debating it up in the booth. Coach Holston had all your starters in there late in the third. As a potential coach down the road, where would you have taken all the starters out? Because I was ripping on Coach Olson, saying they should have been out of there earlier than they were.
I mean, I really don't want to criticize Coach Olson too much, but you don't want to risk injury at this time. The game's pretty well in hand at this point. We have a big game in 2 weeks from now, as you may have heard, and you don't want to risk an injury, but you don't want to let up. You want to keep your foot on the pedal and just really take it to a team who thinks they can play with us, and we want to really step up and show them who's the boss.
And you guys will have a very tough opponent in 2 weeks, whether it's John Robertson in Paramus or Devin Fuller in Old Japan. James, you're a linebacker on the defense. you had a big game tonight against the triple option. Those two quarterbacks are guys you really can't game plan for. They're going to make you miss no matter what set you're in. I know it's 2 weeks away, but what can you see going forward that you're going to have to do to stop those two quarterbacks?
I think we're going to need to work on our tackling a lot. I mean, they make people miss all the time, both quarterbacks, Robertson and Fuller. They make people miss all the time. We got to wrap up, we got to swarm the ball, and that's what I think we're going to practice most of the week.
All right, well, guys, thanks for dropping in. Good luck in a couple of weeks. Let's bring in Jake Shunke now, senior left tackle of this Wayne Hills team. Jake, another great performance from your offensive line. I mean, one of the question marks going into the season was the offensive and defensive lines. You guys answered the call against Ramapo, dominated them. 2 matchups in the playoffs against teams that were supposed to have good defenses, had your way with them. I mean, who do you give credit to on your offensive line, and how do you guys get it done as a unit?
It's me, it's the 2 twins, it's everyone. Everyone contributes a lot in the offensive line. We're all real strong, hard kids. We like to hit. We have no problem with hitting kids, and some kids just don't like that, and then they fold like tonight.
And one of the storylines coming into this game was how big this High Point team was. Probably the biggest team you guys have had to face, some of the biggest fronts you've had to face. That's a big challenge for a couple of your guys on your line. I mean, you're the only guy over 6'2", 6'3". The rest of them are 5'11", 6 foot or less.
Yeah.
What kind of challenges that present, and how'd you deal with that?
Those our smaller kids are one of our tougher kids, and they hit them right in their stomachs, and they didn't like that because they were such a tall kids. They didn't have the leverage like they did, and we just buried them. They had no chance.
All right, well, Jake, thanks a lot. Another great job by you guys over there. You can put the mic down.
Thank you.
Good luck in a couple of weeks, all you guys. I'll see you. So for everyone on our broadcast team, we had a great job tonight from everyone on the field, off the field. My fellow announcers, Alex Screen, Nick Appaluccio, the guys on the deck, Joe Rapp, Anthony Scudillo. Great job all around from everyone. We'll see you in a couple of weeks from the new Meadowlands Stadium.